Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2026 WWE SummerSlam Ultimate Preview. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here to not only break down everything that happened in WWE over the last week, but provide you with not one, but two Ultimate Previews for Night 1 and Night 2 of WWE SummerSlam, taking place this weekend at the US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Vintage Chris Vanini will be along for the ride to break all of it down momentarily. Before we get to him, we need to get to this, and that is a reminder that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King, for Vintage, for the Getting Over Wrestling podcast in its totality. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. We have not 1, 2, or 3, but 4 brand new 5-star reviews because this show is going to be absolutely jam-packed, and we're trying to fit so much into hopefully 2 hours. We're going to save the reading of those reviews to next week, but we nevertheless appreciate all of you leaving them so close to SummerSlam. Also, please do not forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You will get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show on YouTube. When you subscribe over there, you can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. Hit the link in our social media profiles. Join our free Slack channel. Talk about WWE, AEW, and all types of wrestling throughout the week with all of our listeners, our Getting Overheads. There's also links to subscribe to the show. Make sure you follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. Before we get into the meat of the show, I did just want to lay out the schedule for the week as it pertains to Getting Over publishing podcasts. Obviously, this is your WWE SummerSlam Ultimate Preview. We will be back on Thursday talking at least AAA, NXT, and AEW. May have some additional content on that show. And then Saturday and Sunday, immediately after Night 1 and Night 2, respectively, of WWE SummerSlam, we will have a pair of instant analysis podcasts for your ear holes. Make sure you subscribe to the show. If you happen to be a first-time listener, you are going to want to listen to those full breakdowns. They include not just results, but analysis and grades for every match and the shows as a whole. You're going to want to listen to those on Saturday and Sunday. Vintage, welcome to the program. I got to tell you, college football media days are lightening up. The professional sports landscape for me is slowing down a little bit. This is the first time in the last, month and a half that our schedules are relatively cleared, especially when a big WWE event is transpiring. Lucky for us, it's SummerSlam, and we're able to dedicate this week to breaking down WWE's second biggest show of the year.
Yeah, SummerSlam snuck up on me, partially because it's closer to college football media days, but also it's just a lot earlier than it has been in the past. So it's a different part of the schedule too, but I'm ready to talk about this.
Indeed, and we have so much show ahead. We should just move over into this go-home week of WWE television, Vintage. Look, Raw on Monday night, it was weak on its own creative merits, but there's something about the Intuit Dome where it's proving to perhaps not be a great venue for WWE, whether based on the atmosphere or the crowd itself. I cannot really put a finger on it. It's almost like when WWE runs it, they overproduce the show because they have so many more options in the arena. But even beyond that, there were so many taped promo packages on Raw, so little use of the ring compared to most episodes. It severely lacked overall as a go-home show. There were nearly 14,000 people there, extremely close to a sellout. And they were one of the worst crowds of the entire year. I'm sure the venue is playing a role, but WWE creative has been shit both times it visited, even though the first Netflix show, of course, had a ton of notable matches. The first 100 minutes of Raw on Monday night, only 4 talents appearing on the SummerSlam card showed up live in front of a paying crowd in Los Angeles. That's an absolute travesty. SmackDown was better on Friday in the sense that more valuable segments transpired, but booking-wise, I could argue the show was worse. This might be the worst 1-2 punch of go-homes to a major event, maybe any premium live event, since Paul Levesque took over creative. We thought last week's Raw was a kick the can down the road show. This week had more star power, sure, but it wasn't much different in that respect. Overall, though, this build to SummerSlam, it has left a lot to be desired. It's been a total snooze fest, and that's massively depressing when you consider the card on its own merits is incredibly strong. And this is supposed to be a super hype build for the second biggest show of the year. I am struggling to compute how they have a full creative team and they know they need to sell tickets for 2 stadium shows, and they're giving us booking like this, especially knowing these are the go-home episodes. It's rather unfathomable. The overall drop in quality of the product of the last 18 months has been notable, but especially the last 6. Ever since the start of this year, it's been kind of astounding. And at this point, I'm worried that there's not an end in sight.
Yeah, the crowd sucked, but the show sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much to put on that. And I don't understand. I don't know why we get so little of the stars on the show. Like, is it just we really don't want anybody to get injured going into the big show, so we're not going to have them do almost anything? But how do you not have an episode of Raw built around something between Seth and Roman?
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes kind of do it on SmackDown, but it's usually through Sami Zayn. You have Roman in the building, but he's only there for the last 20 minutes of the show.
Right.
I've always been confused why, like, it's like they want to keep the stars special, and so you don't see them wrestle on TV as much sometimes, but sometimes you take that too far where we barely see them at all. And it's just a bizarre feeling going into SummerSlam where, like, the card is great.
Yeah.
But there's been almost no effort put into any of the stories behind them.
But what made the Bloodline back in the day so compelling, and definitely a large part of it was the pandemic, and they had to use the backstage area more because the Thunderdome, and then before that, the WWE Performance Center, it was just so vacant and empty that you didn't want to be there, if you didn't have to be. But what made the Bloodline so compelling were all the backstage segments, the interactions between them, knowing that the Usos and Jacob Fatu have a trios match against a set of guys who are trying to bring their faction down, knowing that Roman has this huge main event match against Seth Rollins. Why is the Bloodline not commiserating backstage with a plan of attack? Reigns calling a play. You guys are going to go out there by yourselves. Jacob's going to be waiting in case you guys need him. Jacob showing some personality, standing in the background. Jay may be saying, no, we need Jacob out there with us. Jimmy, conflicted, not sure which side he wants to go on, Jay's side or Roman's side. When they brought the Bloodline back together and they brought Jacob in, they were telling us a story of, Jay feeling like Jacob is overshadowing him, that he's again being pushed to the side because Reigns has a new attack dog in Fatu like he did before with Solo Sikoa. That's been completely dropped. These guys are just existing together and they're in this match and there's no issues between the three of them, which there should be because it would make the match more interesting and it would make the creative more interesting, not only for that, but potentially for Reigns' match as well. Jacob, hey, Roman, are you going to want me out there at SummerSlam? Reigns being like, no, I want to do this by myself. I need to prove to Rollins. So you're developing Reigns' character, the rest of the Bloodline, and consequently, you're developing both of those feuds through backstage segments. But instead, to your point, he just shows up at the end of the show. It's like they're not trying anymore.
It's even more than you're telling a show on your television show. You're telling a story on your television show.
You're supposed to be.
Like there's and when Triple H took over creative, they were very good at that. And that's why it went, that's part of the reason the Bloodline kept getting bigger after WrestleMania 39 and Triple H taking over, because they would tell stories throughout the show. In the past 6 months this year, it rarely happens, and it almost never happens with the big stars. I always think back to this one episode of Raw in the late 90s. Stone Cold Steve Austin spends the whole episode of Raw catching D-Generation X in like traps around the stadium, or around the arena. And it's like, where is that flow of the show? It's just segment. We don't tell. It's just, it's very rough.
What we praised so much about the creative those first couple of years under Levesque, it was the continuity. and just how consistent these shows were, where, one week you might get more wrestling than another week, but you were getting wrestling. You were getting 15, 16-minute matches. The women were regularly being featured. Things connected from one show to the next, from one backstage segment to the next. They've just given up on all of that. It's, here's a match, here's a backstage segment. They largely operate separate from each other. I mean, we're not even getting Judgment Day Clubhouse anymore. They showed it one time last night, on Monday night. We're taping this on Tuesday. They showed it one time, and there was no audio. It was just, I think, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez having a conversation. And we don't even know what they said because there was no audio. So, Raw and SmackDown, it's just been a massive disappointment. And this is not, I was going to say the momentum, but it's not the lack of momentum that you want going into your second biggest show of the year, a 2-night stadium event. That is most certainly problematic. Now, we have a loaded show coming up, of course, and we're going to kick it off as we always do by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
Sami Zayn manically interrupted a backstage report, putting himself over for finally winning the WWE Championship, despite the powers that be not wanting him in that role. He went over how he got screwed by Adam Pearce, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, conspiring to take the title off of his waist to create a marquee main event at SummerSlam, making everyone happy, including Gunther and Nick Aldis, who have their own match. Everyone except, of course, for Sami. Meanwhile, he's stuck riding the bench. Zayn then confronted Pearce, explaining that Aldis also screwed him at Saturday night's main event. He asked for the WWE title match to be made a triple threat, and when he continued arguing after getting denied, Pearce snapped at him, but he ultimately decided to give Sami an opportunity, a number one contendership match at SummerSlam against the winner of a fatal four-way. Sami correctly retorted that it's unfair how everyone else somehow gets title opportunities just by asking, including when they fall out of the sky, but he is always forced to do it the hard way and earn it. After Pearce gave him an ultimatum, Zayn accepted the match, but made Pearce promise there would be no shenanigans or funny business. He would get the opportunity free and clear. I loved this for Sami. You can make an argument this was the single best segment across both shows for the entire week. It happened later than I desired, but he finally got the opportunity to talk his shit about everything that's been happening to him, both in kayfabe and somewhat in reality, before, during, and after this brief WWE title reign. It was tough to listen to his arguments and disagree with any shred of what he said. And over time, that should give him the opportunity to kind of buck against authority in a way that will be appreciated by the audience. It was to the point here that he even had Pearce relatively speechless. And beyond that, putting a number one contendership match on a major show, especially SummerSlam, is unique for WWE. They used to do it back in the day every once in a while. I can't remember the last time they've had a match like this on a show of this quality. Like I said, this was singularly the best part of SmackDown on Friday. I believe it was the best segment for WWE in the entire week, and I have no notes whatsoever on the effort, the segment, or the overall concept of booking this match for SummerSlam.
Yeah, he made a lot of great, correct points. He said what needed to be said, because him being dismissed and ignored for a couple of weeks for his very real points makes the character feel like a joke. Like he does need to be acknowledged for kind of being put in a very bad position, the same way anybody else would be in that spot. So I was glad they did this. Love that they're doing a number one contender spot on the show. And because we don't get that very often. I feel like AEW may have done it like sometime in the last year, but we should do more of this. Just number one contender. It's a big deal. A number one contender match is an important match.
Yeah.
Like that's more stakes than some of the other stuff on this card. So yeah, I love that.
For a world championship, absolutely. It's bigger than the mid-card title matches. It's bigger than a lot of things. You're getting an opportunity to challenge for the number one title, many would say, in the entire world. So of course it belongs in a show like this. Finn Balor cut an emotional backstage promo about how much SummerSlam means to him, hearkening back to his inaugural appearance 10 years ago back in 2016, and how it was the best and worst night of his career simultaneously. Gunther interrupted to give him a dose of reality, saying he was next in line for the WWE title no matter what happens in his match. The latter half was disappointing because Balor was super passionate and rolling strong. I wanted to see where else that promo was going to go, because he hasn't really had much time to speak since going babyface. Then we got Solo Sikoa. He was backstage trying to gas up Royce Keys, saying he could wind up pulling double duty if he wins, making SummerSlam a huge show. Keys got the crowd going for him as a hometown kid before LA Knight kind of reminded Royce to watch his back for the bloodline. Solo did well putting them both over. The guys were shocked that he was being happy and nice and getting their backs. And Sikoa was incredible in this segment. He is so much better in a funny babyface role, and the cadence he used while speaking, man, it was reminiscent of like a combination of The Rock and Rikishi. He also had the black turtleneck, the gold chain, and the fanny pack, exactly like the famous picture of Dwayne Johnson. I assume it was purposeful, but he does dress similarly to that on television. Between his overall charisma and mannerisms, along with the character just being happy to have real friends who are not his family, I think it's a tremendous turn for Solo. We're going to talk about him more later. And beyond that, like I said, Balor getting the opportunity to state how important this was for him, kind of kicking off the build for this main event four-way match. I thought both those guys knocked it out of the park. I just wanted a little bit more from Finn.
Yeah, and it was good to have some of these guys talk going into the match. Again, telling a story kind of throughout the show to build up to your main event. It was really good.
We had Damian Priest and R-Truth later getting a comedic backstage segment with Priest revealing the champion versus champion tag team title match will finally be happening this week on SmackDown. 5 weeks after the challenge was issued, 4 after it was agreed upon, by the way. Cody Rhodes interrupted to make jokes with Truth, but Priest said the boys are sick of the same people being the face of SmackDown. The crowd legitimately popped for that line, and it happened backstage. Now, CM Punk hasn't been champion on SmackDown in like 15 years, but okay, I digress. Rhodes said he respected Priest's attitude and perspective. Interestingly, Trick Williams, the fourth competitor in this four-way, who cuts the best promos of the foursome competing in the match, was not given a backstage segment. Everyone else got one. Maybe the idea is he needed it the least and the others needed it more, so they spent time on them. And if so, I agree with that. What frustrated here, though, were the choices. Out of all the names on this brand, why were Priest and Williams both champions, but especially Trick holding a singles title? Why were they in this match? How about Ilya Dragunov or Carmelo Hayes, longer reigning U.S. champions than Trick? Or Rey Fenix, who's on a winning streak, just to name a few. Imagine Phoenix in this match instead of Trick, while Williams was building a U.S. title feud on the side. Neither Mello, nor Baron Corbin, nor Ricky Saints were on the show at all. Is Trick really not going to be at SummerSlam? That's the question I was asking at the end of this. And that brings me to my last point. These aforementioned segments spoiled Balor as the winner by reminding us of Finn's history at SummerSlam, reminding us Royce already has a match on the card, and informing us that Damian is literally fighting the night before. Since we knew Trick and Sammy were not going to rematch again, and Zayn was waiting as the opponent, there was only one choice remaining. That was Balor. And as always, for anyone who might be listening to the show for the first time, this was not my take in retrospect. These were the notes I wrote down while I was watching the show live.
Yeah, I think if you work backwards and you're thinking we want Finn to win, but we're going to have him, but let's have him beat legitimate guys.
Mm-hmm.
Trick's a U.S. champion. Damian Priest is a tag champion, a former world champion. Royce Keys is a big guy. Like, it looks good on paper, and you just kind of work backwards from there. But yes, it did telegraph it going in. And the thing I hate, 2 of these guys were going for a double championship, which I don't think we need to do.
No, we don't. But that is a really good point. If you're stacking the match to make the win feel as legitimate as possible, you probably want people who are in prominent roles. And yeah, there are people in prominent roles here. So it was Balor, Keys, Priest, Williams, number one contendership, opportunity, of course, to fight for it at SummerSlam. Solo came out midway through the match for no specific reason after Balor hit a tope onto the other 3 into a commercial. Keys landed top choice Royce during the break. And while I love moves being named, that is not a good name for a move. Then he ate a double superplex and float over bookend with most of the best action hitted from the United States viewers. The Usos attacked Sikoa ringside with Knight saving out of the crowd as Priest prepared to go old school on Williams. But instead, he threw himself out of the ring into a bunch of people who didn't matter during a match with an opportunity to contend for the WWE Championship on the line. Idiota. Balor missed coup de grace, but ate a cyclone kick from Williams as Zayn watched backstage with Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. Damian took out Trick with South of Heaven before eating the ultimate spinebuster from Royce, who got pulled out of the ring by Jacob Fatu, destroyed into the metal, and hip attacked into the barricade. That left Balor to avoid South of Heaven. He had a sling blade, shotgun dropkick, and coup de grace to advance back to SummerSlam. It only took a couple of years, but Balor finally beat Priest clean 1, 2, 3, this time with both of them as baby faces. And now we know why Balor had been booked so strong over the last month. He was being positioned for a potential number 1 contendership. And you know what?
Oh! Yes! I love that!
Win Balor is back, baby. And you know what else? The crowd loved it too. He has been getting tremendous reactions of late on SmackDown.
If you will it, dude, it is no dream.
The 4-way was strong overall. The 2-hour format of SmackDown, it is absolutely crushing match time. This only got 13 minutes with 2 commercial breaks, meaning we saw less than 7 minutes of wrestling for a consequential main event. It was also insanely predictable, as I discussed moments ago. And again, I wrote those notes before the match started. But as we've said before, sometimes predictable things are good. And this is certainly one of those cases. Balor Zayn, if given any legitimate time, has the chance to be an absolutely stellar singles match that could be an undercard show stealer at SummerSlam. On Friday night, this worked, but I do wish it happened without interference from the trios. It was not needed. If it was clean and he went over and it was Balor on top ending the show and not all the other chaos, I would have preferred it.
Yeah, but it feels like they're trying to keep the 6-man tag just on your mind by them just kind of popping up randomly all the time and being involved. And Royce Keys is involved in that. So this is their attempt to promote that. But, you know, I mentioned that a lot of the stuff on SummerSlam kind of came together quickly or didn't have much behind it. Have to credit WWE for putting in the work over the last 2 months or so to build Finn up to this moment. So people are behind him. So they're happy when he wins. So it feels legitimate. So you go into SummerSlam thinking there's a real chance he wins this match. That's what you want, and they executed it well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The criticism for WWE on this SummerSlam build, it's actually about the main events in the top of the card. It's the 4 big title matches that are suffering the most. The mid card has not been built poorly at all. Like some of these matches, if you want to consider Obafemi and Brock Lesnar, Nick Aldis and Gunther, this match, the trios with the men, like those have all actually been booked perfectly fine. But it's the top of the card where they've completely missed. And this segment and the build for this, think about, we just spent the entire main event discussing the build to a number 1 contendership match on the penultimate SmackDown, which is the de facto go home, because the other one is 24 hours before SummerSlam. That is how they spent the show. It was successful, but they didn't spend all of this time building their main event, which needed build, you know?
Yep.
Plenty more show left. Before we get to it, Silver King does need to remind you here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. For $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You got bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reaction to major shows. When necessary, you will get the next version of this Friday night. As soon as the Go Home SmackDown to SummerSlam goes off the air, you also receive exclusive news, analysis, and editorial posts every single week. That is our bonus content given to you for your support of our podcast. We want to keep pumping performance-enhancing audio into your ear holes. Please sign up and support us. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. There is still ton to discuss, of course, for WWE SummerSlam ahead, but plenty else happened on Raw and SmackDown. We're going to break all of that down right now in the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
Intercontinental Championship was on the line. Sol Ruca defending against Raquel Rodriguez. The challenger and champion each cut passionate promos backstage. They were produced so strangely. They both were looking off to an angle as they were cutting a promo into a camera, but it looked like the feeds got lost in production, so they had to use the secondary angle that they were also taping from the side. I totally get trying to do something different. This looked incredibly dumb, and they should never do it again. By the reaction you just gave while I was saying it, I assume you agree.
Yes. Like sometimes that's like the secondary camera, you know, like they'll be looking at the camera
It's
and then
camera
they cut
too.
to an angle of them looking to the side. So maybe they just didn't have, maybe the didn't record the original camera the right way. I don't know. It was very weird and distracting.
Yeah, I was saying that more from the standpoint, that's what it looked like. I don't know that happened, obviously. But
yeah, I don't know either.
it was extremely odd, and they should never, ever do anything like that again. It was I can't even explain it. This was the main event equivalent match of the show. Lyra Valkyria still looking disturbed, watched backstage. Soul dominated from the opening bell with a springboard moonsault, busting Raquel open hard way, may have broken her nose. Rodriguez caught Ruka flying for a terrific inverted suplex, flipping the momentum. But we only really saw Rodriguez on offense during the break for the most part. Soul hit her dumb straight-legged backstabber and sliced bread out of the corner, plus an awesome running knee that looked brutal. Raquel caught a springboard, but got snapped over the top rope before eating a top rope cartwheel DDT with an unfortunate slip out on the head cradle. So Roxanne Perez ran down after 9 minutes, creating a distraction so Liv Morgan could interfere on the other side with a leg trip. Rodriguez hit a big boot for a false finish before Io Sky ran down to save, leading to a ringside brawl. Raquel getting involved like a dummy in the middle of the match led to her eating a code breaker. Io murked Liv into the post with a bullet train attack. Sky then sold her knee upon landing. The chaos kept the referee distracted, allowing Perez to prevent Soul Snatcher on the ropes, with Rodriguez grabbing her for a Tejana Bomb to win her first singles championship 4 years after being called up to the main roster. This match ultimately went 11-ish minutes, might have hit 12. I would normally decry that as a little too short, but the crowd was not really bought in until the craziness began, so the timing was ultimately fine, and I don't know that any more time would have benefited them. Io and Liv brawling during someone else's segment, super repetitive. It literally happened last week in the men's match. However, the best part of their feud, just like the Stephanie Vaquer feud previously, has been them brutalizing and beating the shit out of each other. And the crowd went nuts for it, so I'm not going to poo-poo that decision. As the only women's match on the show, in the main event spot, I did expect the title to change going in. When it was progressing, I became dissuaded to that end. So it was pleasing to see them make the move. Ruka was obviously protected in the finish. Rodriguez looks like a badass, given her busted nose, and she should have just been given more dominant sequences, proving her worth before the finish came. Soul dominated that match. It should have been Raquel, 50-50 at worst. Extremely happy for her to get the title. It took long enough. So well deserved considering her recent turnaround. I hope she has a solid reign that goes a few months. Ultimately, even with Soul losing so soon, at least she defended the title like 3 or 4 times in 60 days. That's definitely a thumbs up. This is good, and I have true belief that the women's mid-card on Raw is going to be headed in the right direction coming out of SummerSlam.
This was good. This deserved a lot more from the crowd than it got.
Yes.
Like I said before, the crowd sucked, but the show sucked. This didn't suck.
No.
Like this was really good. This deserved better reaction from the crowd, and that's what I'm completely putting on the crowd for being bad. Raquel getting busted open pretty early kind of like changed the dynamics of the match, because it's like the big heel is the one busted open, but when you're bleeding, you kind of become sort of like the baby face in the story of the match. I do agree that Raquel should have been more dominant and was more about Soul trying to get out of it, trying to escape, trying to find ways around it, but ultimately being unable to. But this could be, I mean, people cheered for Raquel. I think everyone supported her. My theory is after this that she has this title. Potentially Liv loses at SummerSlam, and then suddenly Liv gets jealous of Raquel having a belt, and maybe we eventually do the Liv versus Raquel thing that I fantasy booked around Mania.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say a year ago.
I think yeah, but like with Raquel kind of, I guess, is the babyface in that role. But really good match. Happy for her, and for Soul, I think it's kind of like when Tiffy, had her first run to establish her, and then didn't figure it out really in terms of WWE what to want. This is the time now where we start to figure out, all right, what's Soul's character? What is she?
Mm-hmm.
She's been established. She's got a championship, all the potential in the world. Now let's like really do the work.
I did see people criticizing. They're like, Lyra Valkyria confronted her last week, and it looked like they were starting that program, but now they just changed the title. She only confronted Soul because she was champion. She confronted her because she wants the title back. It doesn't change now that someone else is champion. She's going to confront Raquel and say, I want your title because I'm the one who started it and it's mine and I want it back. So she only confronted Sol Ruca last week because she was the champion, not because it was Sol Ruca. I don't want people to get that lost. I take this in a completely different direction. I think they both keep the titles coming out of SummerSlam. And guess what's coming up real soon? Money in the Bank. And guess who has been extremely dissuaded with pretty much the entirety of Judgment Day because she's been minimized this entire time? Roxanne Perez. I would not be surprised if they both have championships. Roxy wins Money in the Bank, and they think that she's going to cash it in on whoever's on SmackDown. She ends up cashing it in on Liv, and Judgment Day breaks up, and that is eventually how it all happens. So that's another plausible
Good work too.
Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton commiserated backstage about the forthcoming qualifier for the ladder match, agreeing it would be great if Green got into it, reminiscing about being the final two at Money in the Bank and how Tiffy hoped for the same finish, but Chelsea, of course, wanted it to go the other way. Blake Monroe interrupted afterward, not attacking this time, telling Stratton she likes her more than anyone else in the locker room because they both like the finer things in life. However, she suggested that Tiffy worry less about Chelsea and more about her championship. Some decent United States title build, a solid speaking segment for Blake, while simultaneously developing the Chelsea-Tiffy relationship. It needed it. It took them so long to become friendly in the first place. As a one-off segment, good.
Yeah, agree. Did what it needed to do.
Green fought Kiana James in a qualifier. Kiana hit a nice head kick while draping Chelsea over the barricade. Green answered with Rough Rider, but James escaped Unpretty Her. James then hit a code breaker, but Green countered into Unpretty Her to win in less than 4 minutes. It was unfathomable to me why Kiana was getting an opportunity to compete for a world title when Julia beat her heads up. But taking the L to Chelsea, it made the booking sensible. You need someone who can lose. However, this being a 4-minute match was an absolute joke. They were just starting to get the crowd to buy into their work, and then it ended. This would not have been acceptable for a 24/7 qualifying match, let alone an opportunity to win the effing WWE Championship at SummerSlam. The women's booking.
Well, but yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's still the title. They're going to be holding that belt. The women's booking is so effing bad, and that's the grade this segment gets.
Yeah, I'll give it a bad for that part, 4 minutes. I'm giving it a light bad for that. Okay. But I do like Chelsea winning and getting in the spot. I do like them building to Chelsea winning with the previous segment that we mentioned. Mm-hmm. But yes, give them a little bit more time. Every time Chelsea is on TV, she makes something work. Like WWE knows this. They say this. So, if you want to say we'll combine the match and the backstage promo, there's more time. Sure. But it's an important match. Would have liked more time.
I'm not suggesting Chelsea needs to be out there wrestling 17-minute matches. She can get 7 minutes. I mean, it's simple as that. You want to give Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax more time and Chelsea less. That's okay. Don't make it 4 minutes. Charlotte Flair fought Nia Jax in the other qualifier. Flair in gorilla position admitted that she wasn't thinking last week when she cost Nia and advanced Jade Cargill. She was seeing red, trying to get revenge for Alexa Bliss, her best friend, who has held her hand through really tough times over the last year. Then she refused to say bitch, despite it already being uttered twice on SmackDown before this segment. And then another time before the show ended. But for some reason, the woman couldn't say bitch. Flair took a leg drop, but prevented Annihilator powerbombing Jax off the ropes. Slightly less impressive these days in a hugely positive way because Nia is trimmed down significantly. Good for her. Jade and the baddies distracted by entering late in the bout, but Jax distracted herself, yelling at Cargill as Flair took out the others ringside. Charlotte snapped Nia over the top rope, punched Jade off the apron, slid off a Samoan drop, dodged Jax into the corner, barely connected on an all-time awful boot, and then got punched by Cargill for another disqualification advancement with Jaded as an exclamation point. Nia tore apart the announce table out of anger and didn't attack anyone. Just pure disgusting booking. Absolute filth. There's no other way to describe it. I literally called this out detail by detail last week. The match going longer, but the finish being the same. This got more than 8 minutes, which was better, but it included a break of 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and it again ended in a DQ. The crowd responded accordingly. They were just pissed. Even after the response last week, even after not giving the women any time to wrestle on Raw last Monday, WWE did not alter these booking plans at all. In fact, this was even worse than last week because at least Charlotte had a reason to attack Jade that she explained, illogical and stupid, but she admitted in Gorilla that she was seeing red. Cargill had no reason to attack Flair. There wasn't blind rage here. This was planned, and putting Charlotte into a ladder match for a title Jade is trying to win, that is straight up idiotic. This would normally get a bad in a silo as a single match, but considering all the factors, what's on the line, everything I said last week in my 10-minute rant, which still applies here, this was straight up ugly. Combining those two segments, when SmackDown ended, so last week's segment and this week's segment, it was the absolute worst shit of 2026.
Come on, Oos. It's a joke, right? It's a joke, Oos. You ribbing me?
No, don't like that.
This right here is bullshit.
Vintage, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's ugly. It's terrible. I can't believe they did it after how poorly last week was received by us, by the fans there, by everybody. Just shocking that they would do this a second time. And like Nia's got to get into the match now at some point, right? Like it's kind of BS.
I mean, they said nothing about the final qualifier on TV. After the show, Pierce decided in a backstage segment it's going to be Julia and Lash Legend. But like Nia's been screwed twice, to your point, and not being able to announce that match on TV is ridiculous. Now, just like you just said, I thought it was possible Nia would get a third opportunity. That would have accentuated my point from last week even further, that they limited the number of women who could even compete when you have this huge roster that's not being used. They teased it in the segment. It's not happening. The truth is, Julia and Lash should both be in this match. They should be in for Charlotte and Jade, and the final spot should come to Call Up or Candice even, who is excellent in ladder matches and could have been the ring general calling the shots for everyone involved, because you need a veteran in a match like this. If Julia advances, it's going to be fine. If Lash advances, this match is going to struggle. Not because she's bad, but she's far rougher, and there would be 3 huge women size-wise in a ladder match, with Chelsea the only one involved who's going to take bumps. They need more athleticism. Julia brings that. Fingers crossed she's the one who advances on Friday.
We will see.
I forgot to give you a sound drop for your take earlier.
That is one big pile of shit.
I know it's your favorite one, so there you go. Brie Bella fought Lainey Reed. Fatal Influence cut a group ring walk promo before the bell, which got met by crickets compared to their prior efforts. Now, they were not talking trash to the biggest stars on the brand like they did when they confronted Rhea Ripley, so it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but still, the crowd didn't care. Brie reversed a sunset flip to get the 1-2-3 in 6 minutes, which included more than 3 minutes of commercials. Influence attacked, so Nikki Bella saved in her return since they were in California. She did receive a decent pop, and she looked incredible, hitting Rack Attack 2.0 to clear the ring. Nikki called Influence bitches from their minor league and challenged for a trios match at SummerSlam. Beyond the fact that Brie wrestling a singles match in 2026 should be a total non-starter, this was literally a rematch involving the same tag team halves that we got a month ago, and that lasted 3 whole minutes. Why not run Paige and Fallon Henley and switch it up with the 2 best wrestlers in their respective groups? Why is Fallon the only member of this group who has not wrestled the singles match when she is literally the best in-ring performer they have? It didn't make sense to rematch this at all because Lainey already beat Brie. So now they took the feather out of Reed's cap for no reason whatsoever by giving Bella the win back. Also, if you're having Nikki save the day anyway, why wouldn't you have Brie lose and take most of the beating? That way she's coming in to save her sister. This women's division is an absolute shambles right now. This effectively being a 3-minute match due to the commercial break is the cherry on top of it being a bad segment. The truth is, this should not have happened at all. The time should have been used for the other qualifiers. This could have been a backstage attack or a championship celebration, and it would have been better than doing a match.
Completely agree. Like, I've said it since Paige came back. Why is Paige the second and third wheel in this thing when her return at WrestleMania was the big thing? Everything about it has been very weird. They've been building up Brie more than Paige for some reason. Rematching a match we've already seen. None of it makes sense. Like, again, if you had done Paige versus I mixed up their names still, but if you'd done Paige versus the other one, like you mentioned, and have someone get a definitive win, I mean,
Fallon, yeah.
Again, Brie wins with a roll up here. I'm pretty sure every single Brie / Paige win since they became a thing has been some sort of roll up or pinning combination. Can nobody just hit a finisher and win a match?
I don't even know that Brie has a finisher. I think she does, but I couldn't even tell you what it is at this point.
I think it's Brie mode. I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's called Brie mode.
Yeah, but
like it's
back
weird.
to the point. If you're gonna feature women from these factions, right, and if you're gonna have the faces go over at SummerSlam, which maybe they don't, but for big shows, especially stadium shows, WWE usually puts like the big stars, especially legends, over, right? Why wouldn't you have Fallon beat Paige? Then Laney has a win. Fallon has a win. They just took the titles last week. And okay, they can lose the trios and no one cares.
Well,
instead you have Brie beat Laney and it's 50-50
might
booking.
tell it. Well, we'll get to picking the trios at some point, but I think I'm going differently.
I'm just saying historically that's what they do. I'm not saying it's definitely the booking. Anyway. The Vision fought Alpha Academy in a non-title match. Logan Paul cut an uneventful commercial break promo. Maxine Dupree got involved early and often. Corey Graves was exceptional, quoting Wayne's World going into the break. Austin Theory got knees up to block an Akira Tozawa senton. Otis got run into the post before Breakker hit what I believe is now called Double Vision, the quadruple rope run assisted spear to get the easy win. Otis saved a post-match attack on Tozawa only to get stopped by Dupree when he was going to do a Vader bomb on her boyfriend. The guys power-bombed him out of the corner with Breakker hitting a more straightforward spear to end it, or at least it looked like it was the end of it. Otis tried crawling to his feet using the turnbuckles. Theory sees this, turns around, absolutely destroys him, murks his head into the post with a steel chair shot. He got busted open, somehow, Austin did, with Paul putting him over like, wow, you're really him for his actions. And that was kind of a nice way to cap the segment. There was an obvious concern going into this match, at least from me, that Academy would win, creating a championship opportunity on the back end. This was quite counter to my expectations, with the faces getting straight up bludgeoned in rather excruciating fashion, to the point that them ever getting a title match seems to now be a total non-starter. An interesting move considering how few tag teams exist in the entire company, let alone Raw specifically. The push for Theory and intensity of his character, it's much appreciated on this end, and I found this to be quite successful toward getting him booed, getting Dupree booed, and getting Vision as a faction hated. He feels more important, Theory does, than ever in his main roster career, at least since his debut during the pandemic. And yes, Breakker has somewhat taken a back seat over the last couple of weeks. He's still the one wrecking shit in the ring. This was good.
Yeah, this was good. It's what it needed to be. And it gives me some hope that they have some actual plans for these guys right now. Because like you said, I would have thought, oh, a surprise win for the Academy. We extend this and yada, yada. This is like, no. Like Otis is going to be out for a while, presumably. And the Vision's going to go on to other things. Mm-hmm. And maybe at some point, Otis makes a return and gets a big pop. But this made the Vision look nasty in a way that they needed to. So yeah, it was pretty simple, but good job.
And they got an additional commercial break interview. It felt unnecessary, though. Theory was informed Otis is now out of action indefinitely. He called Otis a fat slob. Logan feigned empathy, but laughed. Maxine got actual heat from the crowd, calling Otis dumb and ugly, just like the fans, telling him to watch from home as she and the Vision thrive together, while Otis will never have a woman like her. Quick bonus good. I don't even know. Did you see this?
I did not see it, but that sounds good.
No problem.
Put it on YouTube or social. I would have loved to have watched it there.
As always, it does not make sense. They tape these segments and then don't show people. Javon Evans fought Rusev. Evans tried a new dance thing during the break. Let's hope that does not become part of his deal. Rusev caught his attempted runaround launch splash, throwing him into the timekeeper's area. During the break, he screamed into the camera that he's a grown-ass man and Javon is a child, which would have been great to see on TV. The crowd was dead until Evans got going with haymakers in the corner and red dot. That led to Rusev getting a medical check off screen before eating we outside. Rusev avoided a high risk and hit Machka kick before Javon avoided the accolade, hitting a Bazaiku knee. But Rusev intercepted the OG cutter, immediately moving into an accolade for a delayed rope break. Javon then did a matrix avoidance of another Machka kick, hitting a regular cutter and OG cutter to win clean. Real nice David versus Goliath match. Enough twists and turns late where you legitimately believed either of them could have won. Actually thought Rusev would get a submission or knockout on the accolade, just the way it was being booked, which made Evans' late comeback even better for the crowd. B-level match, but definitely good. Hopefully some forward momentum for Javon, who is not on the SummerSlam card, but maybe he'll be involved in something significant on the back end.
Dude, these guys have great chemistry together. Javon and Rusev.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we just saw this a week ago in the Gauntlet match. And yet, next week, put together a really fun Really good match.
Mm-hmm.
That flip by Javon to like avoid the clothesline into the stunner, that was crazy. Like, that should have gotten a bigger reaction from the crowd. Like, if that happens in AEW, like, we're seeing that everywhere. That flip's going everywhere on the wrestling air. Like, that was a nuts move right there. And Rusev's sell of the stunner was just fantastic. Like, he did it in the Scott Hall style, where your whole body just kind of like goes. Really great job. Javon was great. Rusev was great. The right guy won. You know, I don't love Rusev picking up losses because I still think the potential is there.
Right.
But it made sense. I hope we can get something for him because he's doing a really good job too. Again, these guys were great.
It's like F if you do, F if you don't. If Rusev wins, everyone's complaining that Javon is losing. Javon wins, it's like, why isn't WWE treating Rusev important? And I'm not saying you're saying that. It's everyone in every situation. And probably the next match we're going to talk about too. Rey Mysterio fought Ethan Page. There was a promo from Page during the break that did not garner any reaction either for him or Mysterio, which was relatively shocking, and it spoke to how poor this crowd was. There was an insanely cute moment during Rey's entrance where a little girl in the front row was smiling crazy wide, bouncing up and down when he came over to say hi to her. It was so sweet. Ethan powerbombed him onto the apron early. He got sent into the ring post on a counter by Rey. Page caught him flying later for an impressive power slam, considering I don't believe that was the planned move. They kind of improv'd it. Mysterio came back with a tornado DDT, but Page made an absolute genius counter of a 619 by pulling up the ring apron to blind and stop him. He immediately ran Rey into the ring post and hit his new Egoplex finisher for, I don't know if you can call it a clean win. I don't think he did anything illegal, though, so let's call it a clean win. Page got legitimate heat immediately after the bell, which proved the booking decision correct. He badly needed not only a victory like that, but something in ring to show him outsmarting an opponent of Rey's caliber. The only negative with him right now is they killed his finisher and they ruined his theme, but he still seems to be getting over. He's a good heel wrestler, and the segment was good as well.
Yeah, it was good. Right guy won. Rey Mysterio is a guy who could take losses and it's fine. Like, he's Rey Mysterio, Hall of Famer, all that stuff. That's why it's a little bit different than Rusev. But the heels got to get some wins sometimes. And they got to do it in like sneaky, but not like blatantly cheating type of ways. It makes Ethan Page look smart. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what his character is and should be, that he's like a smart heel. So well done.
Big Cass also got a third vignette that basically repeated what was said last week. This time, it showed a fresh shot of his face. Short, didn't move forward at all. Rather disappointing because the last two were great, but that is the last thing we had to mention here. Before we get to the rest of the show, though, Silver King does need to remind you that whether it is Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or premium live events like SummerSlam on Netflix, getting over is all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up a drastically better viewing experience each night. You get the same high-quality streams, except they become commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like the United Kingdom, open Netflix, and watch the program. This works for other apps too, by the way. That's not all you get, though, with a NordVPN subscription, because it is an all-in-one digital security solution that blocks threats before they reach your device, not after. You get protected against malware, dangerous websites, and ads. Plus, one account can be used on 10 devices. Best of all, there's no risk because Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan. Improve your WWE viewing, save money, and receive an all-in-one security solution while getting the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. It is officially time to move into our 2026 WWE SummerSlam Ultimate Preview. We are going to tackle this, of course, in 2 parts. We will handle night 1 first and then night 2 second, and anything that happened from Raw and SmackDown that directly builds to these matches, we will discuss in their respective previews. We will not only talk about, of course, what happened on television, we'll give you our predictions for the match and our expectations for the wrestlers and their storylines moving forward coming out of SummerSlam. Vintage, despite both nights here at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, featuring 6 matches, for me as a viewer, these cards are incredibly uneven from an interest standpoint. I basically consider CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins a wash. They're both strong main events, but neither of them has been built well. Night 1 has the next best match, Hell in a Cell, the better women's title match, Liv Morgan, Io Sky, and arguably one of the top 2 or 3 best built matches on the entire card in Gunther and Nick Aldis. Night 2, conversely, has the ladder match, the number 1 contendership, which was just thrown together on SmackDown this past week, and Danhausen, Dominic Mysterio. And then each card is filled out respectively by 2 trios matches and 2 men's mid-card title matches grouped together on each night. They feel 1 match short. I believe it should be 7 each, 14 total. And really, the women's mid-card titles and men's tag team division, that is what's missing from this show. But I'd much rather attend night 1 than night 2 based on these cards. Zero question about it. It's been booked better. The matches are more exciting.
I agree. I have 6 and 6 on both nights.
Correct.
Is there one with 7?
No, I'm saying
okay.
I would prefer.
Oh,
there
you
to be
wanted
14.
1 each. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious how long these will go. I didn't exactly see what time SummerSlam starts.
6 p.m. Eastern, both nights, first hour on ESPN.
Oh, yeah, it's starting a little bit earlier. So that's 5 o'clock Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
And where I'm at, the sun does not go down until like a little after 8. And this is that stadium where it's basically a glass, like see-through ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to feel like daylight probably for most of both of these shows as well, after we didn't love that at WrestleMania. So I'm curious how that will go too. But of the 2, I agree. Night 1, much more interesting.
Sunset is listed as 8:44 p.m. Central Time in Minneapolis. So if we use Central Time Zone, which is the fakest of all the time zones, I'll reiterate.
God's time zone.
That is 3 hours and 45 minutes from the start of the show. That means basically both nights of SummerSlam will be held in their entirety in daylight because they don't go more than 3.5, 4 hours. I mean, did some of those shows go 4.5?
Like WrestleMania, they'll usually do like 4 a night. And look, the sun, if it's low, it might look like.
Yeah, no matter what, the main events will possibly be, in the nighttime, but everything else is going to be, full lights on pretty much. And it's just tough to understand how they don't get the aesthetic is so much better when it's dark, especially in an outdoor venue. Even in an indoor venue, like an arena, you just sometimes feel the difference between daytime and nighttime. But obviously in a stadium setting, when it's open air or when you can at least see the sky, it makes a difference.
I'm assuming it's a 5 o'clock start time because of ESPN, right? They're doing the ESPN stuff to start the show. So there's probably something after. It's a weird time to start.
I don't know why it's going an additional hour early. The 7 p.m. starts have made a lot of sense. The 6 p.m. it's confusing.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it to ESPN as the reason because by the time it ends, it's 10 o'clock. It's not like they're going to put a game on at that point. So I'm not sure why they would want to do it. I don't know why they'd need it to end before 11, which is normally when SportsCenter airs. So, who knows? We'll find out. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe it's because the post shows are also going to air on TV. I'm not positive. But beyond all of this, before we get into the breakdown of the card, these are the wrestlers I consider notable who are completely missing from the show with nothing booked on either night. Javon Evans, Carmelo Hayes, I find that to be completely unacceptable. Braun Breaker with the Vision, similarly rough considering their champions, not entirely unacceptable. Rey Mysterio, Damian Priest, Rey Fenix for the men. And then for the women's side, Lyra Valkyria and Bayley, partially understandable because they were featured on Saturday night's main event. And then other women from the SmackDown side, who we've already discussed, of course, Sol Ruka, who just dropped the championship, and the other women in Judgment Day on Raw. So I don't think it's like the worst in terms of the people who aren't on the card, but Carmelo Hayes specifically should be on this show. He's the one that's missing. Dude, the guy has not been on a PLE since the 2025 Royal Rumble. The 2025 Royal Rumble.
No,
18 months.
I agree. Like it should be Trick and Carmelo here, not Trick and Corbin.
Or a triple threat at least with all of them.
Yeah. But it's not like Melo's been on such a tear. I can't believe he's not on the show right now.
No, but he was involved firmly in the storyline. Corbin joined the storyline, and then Melo got extricated from the match at SummerSlam. It just doesn't make any sense. But we'll talk about that more when we get to night 2. Let's kick this off with our full breakdown, ultimate preview, night 1 of WWE SummerSlam. The Bella Twins and Paige will fight Fatal Influence. I know this has been a long-term feud. This is weak as hell for a SummerSlam match. On the other hand, I love that Influence is getting on the card as a group. It's a huge stage and opportunity for them. And WWE, I want to give them some credit for keeping the tag team titles active, despite previously putting them on Legends and letting them just disappear. It's the one part of the women's division that feels like it has a plan and direction. And outside of a couple hiccups, that has largely been the case since last year when Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair won these titles at SummerSlam. It's probably been the best full year in the history of these titles.
I agree. Again, Brie and Paige, as weird as it was for how long they held the belts, they defended them, I think, more than any other champion in WWE. And that's a credit to the effort being put into it.
You seem to have a pretty strong opinion in terms of who was going to win this match a couple moments ago. So give us your prediction first. Who wins Bella Twins and Paige against Fatal Influence?
I'm going to go Fatal Influence. Like the Bellas and Paige return, like they got the WrestleMania moment. They won the championships there. I know they're not the champions now, but this feels like, all right, this is where you put the young people over now, the new people, JC, Laney, and Fallon. They've got the tag titles. I'm picking Fatal Influence. It seems like a good spot.
It absolutely should be Fatal Influence going over. From your lips to God's ears, I hope it's what happens. I don't see it. Nikki just returned. She's who WWE sees as the star out of everyone in this match. Brie and Paige already lost the tag team titles to Influence, so they did put them over to some degree. And by the time this match rolls around and, you know, it's a major stadium show and you have three legitimate legends on the other side, I think the Bella Twins and Paige win. Nikki gets the fall, probably over Fallon, because for some reason they value her less than Laney Reed, which does not make a shred of sense to me. But I think they want the big babyface win with the legends on the show. You can then reform kind of Nikki and Brie as the Bella Twins tag team. And I mean, I hope this does not happen, but it's possible these tag team titles get stuck in this vortex where Influence won to take them off Brie and Paige, and then the Bellas win them back because they were supposed to be the champions coming out of WrestleMania. So
here's my fantasy booking real quick. Fatal Influence win. Then on the next, is it SmackDown or Raw that they're on?
SmackDown.
They're on SmackDown. The Bellas turn on Paige, who got pinned in the match.
Would love it.
And then Paige needs a tag team partner to fight the Bellas, AJ Lee. You bring them back together. CM Punk's on SmackDown. There's a reason to have them on the same show. You can do a Bella Twins Paige thing, Paige AJ thing. Like this would, again, require putting effort and time into the women's division, the women's tag division, especially if they don't have the titles. But I think that'd be pretty sweet.
I would love it. And then you can focus Fatal Influence with possibly, you know, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss when she comes back, or not move them over to Raw in terms of their positioning, but because the titles float between brands, float them over to Raw, have them feud with some people on that side who need opportunities, need to get on television. I would love that, but don't think it's happening. I believe the baby faces will win, but I like your booking a lot better. The Usos and Jacob Fatu are going to fight LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys. Knight on Raw cut a promo backstage explaining how he's not paranoid. Everything he said about the bloodline has proven out. It was rather boilerplate, nothing new, delivered well. Gave us a new drop for the show that we'll use in the future. The Usos hit the ring 90 minutes later. Jay did his stupid warning shot bow deal, but Solo cut him off at the end, making fun of it from the crowd, looking much better in a cream suit as opposed to his Suge Knight impersonation in red. Sikoa thumbed his nose at the bloodline existing without him, so Jimmy told him, stop messing around, just join us, run the play or else. Solo mocked them for yeeting and doing the warning shot shit, actually got his first or second chant ever, and he said Roman Reigns can kiss his ass. Knight interrupted in kind, and he mocked the Usos' old Haka dance. That led to a 2-on-2 brawl that was won by the faces. When Fatu saved, I figured Keys was going to give him a blindside pounce or something like that. No. Jacob just stormed into the ring, murked both guys. Royce, I guess, was not keyed into the plan. It took him a good 30 seconds to save, barely got a reaction. A blindside pounce or something like that would have given him a moment. Instead, he barely got anything. The ex-friends battled. Sikoa saved before they took down Fatu with a Samoan spike, ultimate spinebuster, and BFT all in succession to stand tall. Considering how much we got involving them on SmackDown, doing yet another go-home segment felt largely unnecessary on Raw, but it was arguably the best part of the show because it actually built a match on the SummerSlam card. This was more important for Solo individually than anyone else. He is truly starting to get over as a babyface. The fans are buying what he is selling, and they are laughing along with him. He has been absolute gold the last couple of weeks. He buried Jay's warning shot bow line, hopefully for good. His pew-pews and his charisma, it's off the charts. I can make an argument he's been the MVP of WWE television the last 2 weeks, which should not be the case going home to SummerSlam, but it seems to be, and good on him for that being the case. That's great to see. Hopefully a sign of what's to come long-term in the future.
He's been really good. I think the guy who has been a little bit better the last couple of weeks, it's in the same thing. It's LA Knight, who's getting great pops, who's not really flubbing his lines. And I loved how Solo basically like said LA Knight's name like as the music hits. I don't know if they mistimed it, but he was like setting it up for the music to hit. Got a big pop. And then when LA Knight like turns around to leave, but then stops, turns back around and starts slowly walking back, that felt like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like the way he was walking and doing that and feeding into the crowd wanting to see it. It was really great. He drops a hilarious line that didn't really make any sense, but it was funny. He goes, my heart doesn't beat purple piss for your family drama. I don't know where purple piss came from.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was hilarious. And then he gets to clear him out. This has gotten as much play as anything. I think going into SummerSlam, they've kind of been doing the same thing for a few weeks, but there is energy and excitement around this, and that's good.
There is this trio of Knight, Sikoa, and Keys. Like, you buy into them and you really want them to win this match. But Vintage, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. And that is, I do not see a team involving Jacob and Jay, both of whom are completely over, and the Bloodline, which is the primary story over on Raw right now. I can't see them getting knocked down a peg by these guys. You have Sikoa and Keys both in this match who can take the L. Knight can come out of it, not having lost, still emerging as the next contender for Reigns' championship. It seems like that's what they have been building over the last couple of months. And again, I don't think you can beat Jacob and the Usos in this spot, even if it would be so refreshing for the product for these three baby faces to come together. There's also something to be said, and we talk about this all the time, when you have an amalgamation of parts, which is Knight, Sikoa, and Keys, and then people who are literal family members and teammates who have wrestled together for extended periods of time and have that familiarity, they probably should win a match like this. So I have the Usos and Fatu emerging victorious.
Yeah, I think they should and will as well. The Usos and Jacob Fatu win. But it's kind of boring if they win.
It is.
Because frankly, I think this bloodline has been kind of boring. But it does make sense. They do need it. I mean, what it was WrestleMania was what the Usos and I Show Speed beat the Vision, right? That was a six-man.
The Usos and LA Knight beat the Vision and I Show Speed.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So we did have some of them together. Yeah, I agree. I think the bloodline gets the win, but I really, really hope they've got plans for LA Knight and Solo, especially coming out of this, because both of these guys they're just very hot right now.
Yeah.
Find ways to keep it going.
And Key should fully slot into the mid-card over on SmackDown. He's a legit U.S. champion. If he was to beat Trick Williams, it's believable because he's so big and strong. Like, I don't want them to drop anything with him, but there is a much higher ceiling when it comes to Solo in LA. No question about that. Let's move over to Gunther versus Nick Aldis. The contract signing for this match opens SmackDown. Adam Pearce presided, explaining that Aldis is giving up his role as general manager by taking the match and not holding WWE responsible for what happens once the bell rings. Aldis signed undeterred. Gunther, who was dressed down as a lack of respect for his opponent, said the match was beneath him. Aldis doesn't know how to do his job, and losing to him would be the best moment of Nick's career. Because even though he was NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, he never made it in WWE, and his hatred of Gunther is pure jealousy. He promised to turn Aldis into a legend by virtue of ending his career in the squared circle, putting his name along the lines of course, all the people he's recently retired. Aldis retorted that Gunther has been repeating himself for weeks because he hopes Nick believes that he's below him. He never actually believed the match would happen and didn't think they would have to fight. Aldis said Gunther is the one putting his career on the line because Aldis hasn't wrestled in 3 years, and therefore he has nothing to lose. But if Gunther does lose, he gets made a bitch by his boss. Aldis got after Gunther in the corner until a push-off into Pearce. They had to repeat the spot because they didn't time it right. That led to a low blow and a table powerbomb. I'm not sure this match needed a go-home segment that was so involved, especially on the penultimate show. But you know what? They knocked it out of the frickin' park. Now, I'm not suggesting it was unique or that it's going to win any awards or be remembered, but it was as much as you could possibly want from these guys, given the storyline they developed and their respective backgrounds. It established Aldis as credible. It put stakes on the match for Gunther by framing it as a potential embarrassment for him should he lose. He needed to have skin in the game and show a level of concern, because to that point, he had not. Needed to make it feel somewhat even between them and important for both sides. That was accomplished. I praised another segment as being best of the week. This was one of the better segments of the entire week. And surprise, surprise, it happened on SmackDown.
A couple things here. Opening with Aldis already in the ring. At first I was like, oh, why not like let him get a crowd pop? And then I realized, no, you're saving the Aldis entrance for SummerSlam. The music, the look, all that stuff. That's going to be a thing when he comes out. Aldis, explaining that Aldis is giving up his job for this fight makes sense, because if the idea is that your general manager needs to be objective, clearly he can't be, and this is the trade. Maybe we get it this week. I'd like to get it on this week. It's a pretty big deal for Aldis to give up that role. He's held this role for years. It's a prestigious job, so to speak. We know on Unreal he's like backstage and involved. What does this mean moving forward? Is he a full-time wrestler? Is he going to keep wrestling? Is he going to see how he feels after this? Could this be the end? I like that Gunther said, I'm going to end your career. So maybe this is the one and only match Aldis does, in which case, what happens if he loses? What's he going to do? I don't know. Like, he has a lot on the line in this, and I'd like a little bit more just like explanation for why. Just hating Gunther is not enough of a reason. He hated Drew McIntyre. He's hated some other people. So waiting for that. I did like that Gunther built him up. That was necessary. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get a vignette. We better get it this week.
Need it this week, yeah.
Of Nick Aldis and Magnus being a very accomplished wrestler. He won the NWA Championship, beat Cody for it. And not only did he have that, which is not going to mention the Cody thing because that's all in and all that stuff.
Right.
But he also won the TNA Championship.
Yeah.
And I was surprised they didn't say that, given the TNA WWE relationship that had been. But you need to build them up, and Gunther did a pretty good job of that. But we need more going into Friday of like believing that Aldis can win this. And here's why, because here's what he done. But it was really good. I just hope we get some more this Friday.
So you jumped ahead positively to two things I was going to prompt you about, which is nice. We already got your take on it. But the first is that, yes, we need some type of in-action vignette showing that Aldis can actually go in the ring. And because WWE has that loose partnership with TNA, they should be able to get plenty of quality footage in order to build it. It doesn't need to be more than 30 or 60 seconds, but it just needs to show that this guy can actually wrestle, because we've never been told that he can up until pretty much this segment. The only part of this that bothered me was the concept of there now suddenly being protocol that general managers cannot wrestle. And that was introduced at the contract signing. That has never been the case in WWE historically, including when Pierce was forced into wrestling Reigns a few years ago during the pandemic. Now,
oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah.
Now that said, WWE is treating its authority figures with more legitimacy than ever before. So I didn't dislike that element being added. In fact, I would call it a positive. But it should have been introduced weeks ago so that we understood Aldis was giving something up by going to these lengths. He should have wanted to fight Gunther, but been prevented from doing so because of his position. Further, it was murky in the segment whether Aldis could reassume his duties after SummerSlam. However, they actually clarified it before the main event of SmackDown, with Wade Barrett on commentary saying he was only temporarily giving up his duties. He would reassume them after the match.
Oh, I guess I didn't catch that.
Because they just said it almost as an aside right before a match. It wasn't a tentpole part of the main segment where it sounded, based on the way Pierce explained it, like Aldis was giving up his job entirely just to have a single match. So in that case, it was like, I just wish they nailed it a little bit more. But again, they did cover it. They ensured there wasn't a plot hole. And by saying, hey, you need to relinquish something just to get this match, it made the match feel more important. and it made it feel like Aldis had gone to a length beyond just, hey, I want to fight you, so we're going to have a match together. Beyond that,
Yes.
I'm almost positive, and this is a feeling, not a fact. I'm almost positive this was earmarked for Drew McIntyre upon his return. But
Right.
him getting that second movie role and filming consecutively after Highlander, it basically pushed these plans over to Gunther. It's just how everything feels. McIntyre had such a deep, long-term story and such a extended hatred with Aldis that it would have worked even better than it is with Gunther. And with Gunther, it's working incredibly well.
I agree. As for the pick, I'm torn because I've wanted Nick Aldis to wrestle for a while. I interviewed him ahead of WrestleMania 40 for my Cody story and asked him if he'd get back in there. He had just had some like elbow surgery or something like that about him wanting to come back at some point. So I've wanted this for a while. I watched him in TNA back in the day. And I would love, Mickey James comes down and prevents Gunther from cheating or something, his real life wife, Mickey James, and helps Nick Aldis win. And he looks great. And he just kind of wrestles for a little bit. Not for a long time, but just it's a thing. However, he's wrestling Gunther. And I have said from the moment that Gunther retired John Cena that Gunther needs to be your biggest bad in the company. And not a great track record since then, but you can't have him losing to his boss on SummerSlam.
Right.
You will have negated everything you have done with him beating Cena. So it's got to be Gunther. He wins. And it should be the end of Nick Aldis' wrestling career. Add it to the list of careers that he's killed. It's in the Jumbotron for Gunther, career killer. It would make sense for that to be the end, but they haven't put that on the line. So I don't know. Either way, the pick is Gunther.
I'm going to be firmly focused on the match time here because Gunther previously fought someone who was a non-wrestler, right, in WWE, that being Pat McAfee, right, at Backlash 2025. And our takeaway from that match, if memory serves, is that it over-delivered, like it was better than we thought it was going to be, but it was too long because it went 14 minutes and McAfee got way too much offensively and looked way too strong, I think powering out of the sleeper hold at least once or whatever the case might be. Aldis should be taking Gunther a lot further than McAfee, both because he's a legitimate wrestler and because he's an NWA and TNA heavyweight champion. And on top of both of those, because it's SummerSlam and he's not an announcer. So there's like what he is and also what he isn't in this case is the point I'm trying to make. So I'm going to be real curious to see, like, does this get 14, 15, 16 minutes? Is it a 9-minute thing and all just kind of gets crushed? And then we look at that and we put up the mirror compared to Gunther and McAfee and we say, this is ridiculous because Aldis was treated worse than McAfee. I'm going to be extremely interested to see the way this is booked. No matter what happens, the winner is going to be the same, of course. Gunther beating Aldis and emerging from this match. Women's World Championship, Liv Morgan defending against Io Sky. Io on Raw got a promo package saying she's been in Liv's head since Queen of the Ring, not only proving her wrong, but proving she's not as strong as she thinks. She said Morgan is not the greatest champion of all time because she has shared locker rooms and been taught by the best, and Liv does not compare to any of them, especially given her arrogance. Io promised to defeat her for a second time and become champion. Liv responded with a taped promo from the Judgment Day Clubhouse, reminding Io that she's been underestimated and overlooked her entire career. Given her resume, she doesn't care what people think, but she does care about getting revenge on Sky for Crown Jewel. Then she thanked Io for the chance to remind everyone that she's the greatest of all time. Each of them got more than a decent amount of time to speak, and considering the length of the build, there was not much else they could have done as a go-home. Plus, of course, we saw the attack in and around the ring in the main event match segment. These aired before that brawl, which made up for them not doing this in the ring. That would have been my note. Why can't Io and Liv just cut these same promos face to face? Their brawls have been the best part of their feud over the last 2 months. We got one more on the go home and we got to hear them speak as well. So even though this was hugely disappointing last week where they just did the brawl and they didn't do anything else, at this point, I really just want to see the match. They did enough in their first to make me excited for it. And I'm totally down for the rematch, even if I'm not down for the booking. I never would have booked this, but Liv and Io are two of the top stars on the entire brand. They're fighting for the title at a huge show.
Yeah, like it was always going to be weird because of that booking. This was fine. This was a weird part in the show, by the way, on Raw, where we went from the Raquel Soul vignette to the Chad Gable vignette to the Io Sky vignette with a commercial break in there. So it was just a weird, long period of time without wrestling. That just was my feeling when I watched the Io Sky one. So, like, it's two big names, but it's just inherently weird when they wrestled a month ago for kind of the same thing.
I always assumed Liv would retain the title here. If we're being honest, given her disastrous title reign, with this being the first defense in more than 100 days, it probably would be better to flip it to Io and completely reset the championship picture. Unfortunately, I cannot imagine that being the case, considering how concerted the effort has been on the creative end to sell a knee injury for Sky. They've been doing that since I want to say the semifinals of Queen of the Ring. If not, then it was in the final against Morgan. So she's going to be given an out in this match. Liv is going to walk out as champion. And as a bonus prediction, I'm going to wager that Stephanie Vaquera returns during the post-match celebration to kick off their feud for the second half of the year.
Does Liv win clean, or is there like a Raquel Roxanne interference thing?
I'm going to say they distract at some point. Io overcomes the distraction, but then due to the knee, she loses what would otherwise be considered clean. Like, I don't think there's direct interference distraction in the finish of the match. I think the knee gives way. She crumples by the ropes. Liv counters with Oblivion, and that's it.
Yeah. I'm going Liv as well. The title reign has been like nothing. I think she may have lost more matches, singles matches, than she's won or something like that. Like,
Liv?
she just hasn't defended the title almost
No,
at all.
she's won more than she lost because she got all the way to the finals of Queen of the Ring.
No, I mean, I get. Oh, that's true. I guess since that's true. But
she lost her most important match since winning the title, which was that match at Queen of the Ring. Yeah.
She's been kind of in no story that's hers, or she's had no real challengers. It's just been a complete waste of time for the last several months. And so I'm imagining there is some plan, and that plan maybe comes after SummerSlam now. Because if she loses it here, it's like we're talking one of the worst reigns of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Liv wins. I did think the brawl on Raw, Io runs down and then Liv just immediately takes her out, was like really funny. Like, I laughed. Like, it was like, here's Io, she's here, and then just gets trucked by Liv and beat up. It was like legitimately pretty funny. I know I fantasy booked Liv losing and Raquel having a title and Liv being jealous and all that stuff, but it doesn't really make sense to have Liv lose here. I'm going Liv as well.
All right, let's move to Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar inside Hell in a Cell. A weigh-in with Paul Levesque and Adam Pearce opened Raw with the Hell in a Cell structure lowered from the rafters for the occasion. I would love to know the total cost round trip of taking this from wherever it was to Los Angeles, setting it up, now sending it to Minneapolis, which is 2,000 miles away, mind you, and then, of course, having to set it up there as well. So all this done purely for visuals for this segment. I appreciate it as a fan, no doubt. I'm not criticizing. I'm just thinking about the added expense, and it kind of made me laugh. Anyway, the visual was great of first these guys walking backstage in a split screen, then Femi entered along with like 5 police officers to weigh in at 302 pounds. He took off his shirt, but left on his pants and worse, his shoes, which flies in the face of how weigh-ins are actually conducted. Lesnar was billed as the greatest combat sports athlete ever, which is incredibly false, but he is the only one to win the UFC and WWE heavyweight championships. When he hit the bottom of the ramp, rather than enter, he locked the door and taunted from the outside as Paul Heyman put him over. Femi huffed and puffed, stalking Lesnar as Heyman's mic went out 3 different times while he ran down all of Brock's accolades.
Why does this always happen to Heyman?
I don't know.
Like, sometimes it's on purpose, but this was clearly not.
Paul said he weighed in at 303 pounds backstage, which is 1 pound more than Oba, mind you. Lesnar is listed at 285 and has been for a long time. Femi said he may be free in the moment, Brock, but on Saturday he'll be locked in the cell with him. Brock stormed back to the ring, flipped him double birds, and left. So Oba took his aggression out on the cops, who somehow doubled in number. It was like a magic trick. He came down with 5 guys. There were 10 in the ring. One dude botched a powerbomb so bad that Oba literally had to save his life. Femi hits the powerbomb. then I'm pretty sure it's the same dude. He kicked him in the ribs to knock him out of the ring. It looked like it was a purposeful F you for screwing up my moment. He tossed the scale, showed his frustration, and the segment ended. I have no doubt, Vintage, that this read well on paper. Execution-wise, it missed the mark, and I'm not sure it was anyone's individual fault. The microphone cutting out thrice on Heyman stalled the segment unnecessarily. His promo felt repetitive because we've heard versions of it before, and similar praise of Lesnar. I mean, he said it, Lesnar said it about himself. There was also a visual element to this with Femi that I'm sure was unintended, but nevertheless, let's just say it was awkward. And considering neither guy was truly given the chance to speak, I cannot say I was more excited for the match when it ended than I was when it began. I gotta believe a portion of us watching assumed Oba would rip the door off its hinges or kick it down with gusto and then go after Brock, which would have been a thrill to see live, but that did not happen. However, I was already at a 9 of 10 for Hell in a Cell in terms of my excitement level, and they've been feuding so long that I'm not really sure what else they could have done differently besides brawling and tearing apart the ring or the backstage area to show the necessity of the cell. The argument against it is that it risks injury, and you want to protect everyone in a situation like this. But yeah, while the cell being there was cool, and it looks like it's been refreshed a little bit, in terms of a go-home for the feud, this was not memorable at all.
What's the kayfabe explanation for a weigh-in? I understand contract signings. You can explain that away. They don't do many weigh-ins in WWE. I remember there was the Triple H. Was there the Triple H Scott Steiner one when they along the period where they were doing the body posing and stuff? I feel like Big Show did one.
Do you want the kayfabe explanation?
Yeah, what's the kayfabe explanation?
It literally is just to build hype to the match. Just like UFC or boxing, they can weigh them backstage. And I know there are weight limits by division for those sports. I get it. But they don't need to be done on a platform or a stage in front of a crowd. They do that.
No, but they do need to weigh within the certain division.
They do, but oftentimes the real weigh-in does not occur on stage. What they do there is for show. So did they need their weights for this match? In kayfabe, no, they get everyone's weight, and just for reasons, because it's wrestling. But they did not need the weigh-in. The reason for this segment in kayfabe was because the booker and the general manager, who were in the ring, wanted to build hype for the match. That's pretty much it.
Yes, and there was a contract signing on SmackDown. Roman Seth was not a contract signing, and they've done that a lot. I'm nitpicking, but it was just interesting. This was weird to do all the work of bringing the cage down and stuff, and then to not do anything with it other than lock Oba in there. This didn't do much for me, but like you said, I'm already plenty excited for the match. It is what it is. I guess if you have Oba rip off a door or something, that opens the kayfabe possibility of just doing that in the match. It was kind of a sloppy segment, but not really either guy's fault. It was what it was.
Yeah, sloppy, too long. I don't necessarily blame any one individual. I just think it went off the rails and didn't recover, and sometimes that shit happens. The argument I would make, honestly, would be to flip the open and close of Raw. You have Rollins and Reigns do whatever they did, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the open, and then you do this in the main event. That way, Oba can tear apart the ring. And he can he can rip a turnbuckle off and pull the top rope down and actually have a fit in there. And it's oh my God, this guy is an absolute monster. That's what we're getting on this show. But because it's not a main event, it didn't main event Raw. That's also a mistake they made.
Was it cops in the ring that Oba beat up?
Yeah, I mean, he should be going to jail, theoretically. Well,
because we went through this a couple weeks ago where Brock had the cops thing, but then it turned out to be they were fake cops, fake restraining orders.
Right.
So they feel like they've run out of ideas on what to do with
I think the argument here, just again, if we're doing kayfabe, is that off-duty police officers, they're wearing the uniform, but they're not subject to, not being touched by people. I don't know.
I'm nitpicking. I think they've just kind of run out of ideas to do,
no, they did.
Understandable.
They 100% just ran out of ideas, which, again, a 3-match feud going from before WrestleMania to now, with 2 monster men, there's only so much you can do. And look, as we both just said, at the end of the day, you don't have to build it that much more. All you need to remember is that you have Brock Lesnar and Obafemi, and you're locking them inside of a steel cage. And as soon as that happens, technically Hell in a Cell.
Oh, we got two big meaty men bumping me tonight.
And I'm going to tell you what.
Reinforce the ring post. The beef's going to be flying tonight, gentlemen.
Vintage, there's going to be a lot of beef out there.
There's a lot of beef out here.
I need some meat.
Yeah, I need some meat, and we're getting it with this match. It is what should be the conclusion to a trilogy. We have seen WWE in the past go 4-match series instead of 3, with one result being murky between the two. Don't see that happening. This is Lesnar potentially having a legitimate retirement match, or if it's not a quote-unquote retirement match, a last match in Minneapolis, his home state, in front of a crowd, many people who will be there for him. Oba, the opportunity to overcome this 1-to-1, record to this point, win the rubber match, and be promoted and pushed the same way we thought he was going to be immediately after WrestleMania, when it looked like Lesnar might have actually retired in that match. There is no acceptable result at all. Other than Oba beating Brock, there is no acceptable booking other than this getting legitimate time. We have seen Lesnar work longer matches when he's been put in a main event type situation in the past. The SummerSlam Last Man Standing, should have been Falls Count Anywhere, but it was Last Man Standing with Roman Reigns, which seemed like it was going to be his prior retirement match with the Tractor, where he stood in the ring with the cowboy hat, the whole 9 yards. We know he can go long. And if this is it, if he's actually going to hang up the boots and this will be the end of his career, then I want 15, 18, 20, 22 minutes of meat-on-meat action with Obafemi standing tall, conquering Brock Lesnar, and emerging as the next big thing in WWE.
Over under 7.5 F5s. It was 7 in Clash in Italy.
Under.
I'm good. I'll take the over, because I think we'll give them time. Give them like 10 minutes, 10, 15, really do a real match. I suspect they probably won't. This is probably going to open the night.
This really should not open the show. This should not be on ESPN. I know it probably will be, to your point. It should not be.
I'm curious if Brock comes out with any University of Minnesota stuff to reference that. I'm curious if that or anything else gets a home crowd behind him at all, but people do love Oba. I don't think they'll boo Oba by any means. This will be an Oba win, as it should be. And then, I'm curious if Brock does do a real retirement. We thought it would be the story going in. It's not. Or my hope is he does have one more match after this, and it's losing to Gunther and getting retired by him. That would be my hope. But Oba wins.
You think Gunther picks the bones? He loses this, Gunther calls him out. I'm going to put you down. That type of thing?
No, it's probably a WrestleMania thing.
Gotcha.
But
just point of order in terms of match time. Lesnar's 2 longest recent matches. I mentioned SummerSlam 2022, Last Man Standing. That went 23 minutes. And then SummerSlam 2023 against Cody Rhodes, that went nearly 18 minutes. Now, I know this is 3 years later. I get it. But he's got to go 15 plus. If you hit that 17 mark that Cody and Brock got 3 years ago, to me, that's more than fine. But I don't want to see a 9, 6, 4-minute match. We got to get more than that as far as I'm concerned. Either way.
I mean, it was 6 minutes in Italy. I think it was about the same at WrestleMania.
5 at WrestleMania.
So,
and then 9 with Cena, which was the relative squash. Shocking it went longer than both of those, but yeah. So that's what we need. And we need Obafemi on top at the end of this match. All this brings us to the night 1 main event. WWE Championship on the line, CM Punk defending against Cody Rhodes. Cody got half booed opening hour 2 of SmackDown. He soaked it in before introducing Punk. Rhodes dropped a mic accidentally, he claimed. So Punk dropped the title and his jacket, refusing to bend down so as not to turn his back on his supposed friend. Punk said it was sad, that's what it's come to between them. But Cody admitted that he understood the belt swipe at Saturday night's main event was an accident, and he's ready to move forward. It only took him 10 days. Rhodes said that he's not only focused on beating Punk because of the WWE Championship, and while he may love and respect him, he doesn't like him. Cody said he loved Punk's pipe bomb and followed the directions to a T, to the point that he dropped a nuke on the entire industry, yet the whole time, the fans wished it was Punk doing that, not him. Cody said he's tired of apologizing for working hard and achieving. Then he quoted Walter White saying he went from the one who knocks to the one they knock for, explaining why WWE has publicly positioned him as their golden boy. Rhodes put over the WWE roster as the greatest in the history of wrestling, but he said he doesn't sweat anyone else in their division except Punk, and the only way his story can have a true, proper ending is if he beats him at SummerSlam. Punk said he knows he always casts a large shadow that even superstars struggle to escape. He credited Cody and talked about learning from him that there was a way back in 2022, but even before that moment, they've been chasing and circling each other for years. Punk said Rhodes is lying about not liking him. He can't handle the pressure of rising to the occasion and trying to beat him. He always makes himself the victim and others his enemy, just like he did with Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and John Cena. Punk said that makes him Rhodes' only friend. He promised long ago he would never stab him in the back, only in the front, and this doesn't end when Cody wins, but when Punk breaks his heart with a pillar-to-post ass-whooping and a reminder that he's the best in the world at SummerSlam and no one can touch him, not even Dusty's kid. Punk tried to walk off with an exclamation point, but Rhodes cut off the music, got in his face, and demanded Kingdom be played instead. Look, we all know Cody is a great promo, so this should not need to be qualified, but his part of the segment was extremely fine speech adjacent. I could not find myself caring about anything he said as he droned on, and I don't believe the crowd did either. In fact, as I just broke down what Rhodes said in my own words, I actually found my notes to be more compelling than the speech he gave, because the line of logic that he took made complete sense. Punk did far better ratcheting up the intensity and getting to the crux of an interesting storyline by calling Cody on his bullshit. And the end of the segment was definitely hot. But this played like something you would normally get 4 weeks out from WrestleMania, where the first set of major barbs had already been thrown. So now your main eventers are kind of biding time for a couple weeks until their next huge signature confrontation, 1 to 2 weeks out from the big match. The problem is that this was effectively the go-home segment because this week's SmackDown is 24 hours before their match. It did not hit anywhere near hard enough to be the primary build for the match. And this is 2 A-level shows in a row where Cody's main event booking has frankly been boring, chalked up to you're someone who helped pave the way for me and now I have to beat you to prove myself. It was executed well enough. Punk soared in the second half, but the Rhodes portion of it for me, it just felt like it was tired as he keeps telling the story and it's the same thing over and over. Some might even call it missionary position. The same thing every night.
It's the same thing over and over and over. It's like missionary position every single night.
Yeah, I said a week ago I was really hoping they'd really get into their history together and in the company, and Punk like kind of alluded to that, saying you showed me there's a path back. We've even before that moment we've been chasing each other, which referred to AEW, but like Cody's not bringing anything to this. It's Punk. Punk's the only one who's making it kind of interesting. And like, if this is setting up a Cody heel turn, like, okay, I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're supposed to come out of this and these guys either continue or move on and Cody's still expecting to get cheered, like, I don't know, it's going to feel very tired. He's just not as interesting as CM Punk is. And so people are going to cheer for CM Punk. I'm going to say this again later when we get to another match. Mm-hmm. But this was a letdown. They like the reason they're fighting each other is because Cody won a number 1 contendership match. That's the reason. They have given no actual story reason to get more excited for this, other than Cody being like kind of jealous, but also upset a belt hit him in the face. Like, there's been nothing put into this, and it's very disappointing for something that was going to be a WrestleMania main event because we know both of these guys are really, really good. There's just been so little effort put into telling a story, and that's disappointing.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting that you mentioned the WrestleMania main event thing, because for anyone who might be listening to the show for the first time, this is something we have talked about constantly before WrestleMania, after WrestleMania, and now going into SummerSlam, where WWE, I'll just reiterate briefly, they took the planned main events for WrestleMania 42, which they had to change around almost entirely due to Seth Rollins' injury. And they basically just pushed them to SummerSlam. But by virtue of doing that, they completely truncated the timetable that they had to build the matches. If these were set for WrestleMania, I have no doubt both of them would have been built incredibly well. They would have had time to breathe. There was so much time between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, which you would have been able to tell the story in that extended period. But because this was so rushed, because they did the Sami Zayn title change and they have Cody entering this match as a challenger rather than the champion, and that was an exciting moment, and I don't think anyone would want them to not do that. But as a consequence, this was rushed, extremely short, and it's two guys of whom WWE does not want to turn either heel. And because of that, you can only get so heated. You can only get so exciting. So I have absolutely no doubt, Vintage, that this is going to be an incredible wrestling match. I would even venture to say, as much as I'm looking forward to Oba and Brock, if I had to wager, I would guess this is going to be the match of the night for night one. I have zero doubt about any of that. But am I compelled going into the show thinking that Punk and Rhodes is some epic? I'm not. And it largely feels like if it was booked for WrestleMania, it could have been the match, perhaps one they never even needed to revisit. Now, it really just feels like the first of what's going to be multiple meetings, perhaps not all in 2026, but over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yes, I agree also that this will probably be the best match of the night. These guys are good, big match wrestlers. And maybe there's a story that comes out of it. Maybe, SummerSlam last year, we had 2 surprises at the end of both nights. Seth's return to cash in, Brock's return. I imagine they also want to close this show with momentum to get people excited for night 2. So
absolutely,
I don't know. Maybe it's a Cody heel turn. Maybe it's a surprise. Somebody comes back, but we'll see. We'll see. Do you want to make my pick now?
Yeah, you can go first if you want. Sure.
I'm going to go CM Punk retains. To have such a short reign with the Sammy, to have back-to-back short reigns with Sammy in between would not fit, I think, what Triple H likes to do. I think Cody is more interesting away from the title, and whether it's continuing to chase Punk or something else, move him into something different or find another side of Cody. And Punk's on SmackDown now, so he's got fresher opponents than he had on Raw. So that's my pick.
Yeah, Punk right now on SmackDown is the only person actually moving the needle. Rhodes with the WWE Championship is incredibly tired. And as you just said, he is so much more interesting, not just in chase, but when he's just not champion. Like it just, you actually care about him when he's on screen, as opposed to Kingdom hits, he comes out with the title, you kind of just roll your eyes because the vast majority of feuds he's entering, and when I say vast majority, I mean like 95%, he's going to win and emerge with the championship because beating Cody is something that has barely happened since he's returned to the company. It is a total non-starter for Cody to win this match and become champion again. I mean, unless they're going to do something crazy like Cody beats Punk and then SmackDown on Friday, Sammy, gets a number 1 contendership and beats him for the title again. And you're just doing something like batshit crazy. Unless that's the case, you got to have Punk emerge. He's freshened up SmackDown to a significant degree. There's a lot of people I want to see him fight. You want to see him fight. The fans want to see him fight on that show. And Rhodes has basically run the gauntlet with these people already. Like it's old hat. It's tired. And I would even go a step further. I know it's probably impossible because Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, frankly, are both on Raw. But like, if I had my druthers, I would take him off the brand entirely. Like he just needs a brand new setting. And it's not that he's not over and it's not that he's not selling merch, but he's diminished from what his height was. And WWE needs to focus on getting him back there without over pushing him. They need to learn from their mistakes. And the first step toward that was Zayn taking the title from him. The second step, hopefully, is Punk retaining the WWE Championship, night 1 of WWE SummerSlam. And that's a perfect transition, Vintage, for us to move over to night 2. We're going to open this breakdown with Danhausen versus Dominic Mysterio. Danhausen and Joe Hendry got a concert segment on Raw, both of them singing, Joe playing the guitar, Danhausen the organ. Then they did a choreographed song and dance number with the Minis, and what were probably the Los Angeles Clippers dancers or cheerleaders Ryan Garcia, the WBC welterweight champion, then hopped the barricade, joined the conga line, and grabbed a guitar, ultimately bashing Hendry over the back with it. Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough attacked Danhausen and the Minis before standing tall together in the ring. You know, everything with Danhausen has been going pretty damn well since his debut. Unfortunately, this reminded of that Elimination Chamber debut with another unnecessary, unfunny song and dance number that was met with dead silence from the fans, just like that one. The attack at the end ultimately made it relevant, but that was far too little, far too late, and Garcia is not a big enough star to matter. But even beyond that, he's an objectively bad person. All you have to do is look him up. A trash human being. He's part of a Zuffa boxing card, so this was part of promotion for a forthcoming match. As we have told you before, TKO, they see WWE as a promotional arm for UFC and Zuffa. The general corporate synergy aspect, I'm not even against that. I get it. But it was a particularly bad look involving that guy in a segment that appeals to children. And remember, it was awful before he showed up. Second straight week with the 0.0 award nominee. This would have been ugly if it was in our earlier segment, but it still gets the drops.
0.0.
0.0, Mr. Blutarski.
Shame.
So dumb.
I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like, it felt like a 2017 Vince McMahon sketch. Like, Joe Hendry, they just don't know what to do. So he's just the singing guy now, even though they never did the main gimmick. You just put your two comedy guys together. I guess we've just dropped the Miz Kit Wilson stuff, and we've been overexposed to Danhausen the last several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he was like the focal point of Raw a week ago. It's too much. Like the minis we've done a million times. I just, none of it makes sense. The YouTube video of this got more down votes than up votes, which is pretty rare for a WWE video these days. I was just gobsmacked at what I was watching, and then throwing Ryan Garcia on top of that. It was just like, man, this is the worst of the worst. This was the worst part of Raw of the weekend. It actually wasn't the women's stuff, which was bad. This was the worst part.
This ended up being the worst if you combine, yes, the Friday through Monday. This was worse than the women, but the women were bad, especially when you bring it back to the prior SmackDown. And to your note on YouTube, they've pulled the English version off of the WWE YouTube. I mean,
really?
Yeah, I don't even know. They did this a couple months ago. Ricky Saints did a concert segment on NXT that I actually thought was funny. I thought it was purposefully bad, but they pulled that because it was getting so criticized. This was just horrendous in every possible way, and clearly WWE knows that as well. I don't even know why they tried this. Like, it doesn't make sense why they tried this. What works with Danhausen is backstage shit, and then if the backstage stuff runs out to the ring, that's okay. You can put them in a match. They've proven that can work, but this is now 0 for 2 on these like sing-song dance numbers. This isn't what people want. Like, you failed with this in his debut. Why are you running it again before SummerSlam?
He is funny. It's a lot when they put a lot of stuff around him that's less
This
funny.
wasn't funny. Like, it wasn't even, I don't even know that it was trying to be funny.
Right.
That's the crazy
The song
part.
was incredibly annoying too.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
kept repeating that line over and over.
It was
and over
awful.
again.
Pierce confronted Danhausen in his laboratory as a nurse checked on him in the minis. He demanded Danhausen return the money, just that way the chaos could end. Danhausen refused, instead demanding a human monies on a pole match. He had a funny quip when Pierce didn't accept the stipulation right away. He was like, how can you be in wrestling and not like want something on the pole match? How can you not understand that?
That was funny. He said, have you watched wrestling before?
Yeah, that was like legitimately funny. A full-fledged attack in the lab leading into this segment with Pierce would have been far better than the song and dance. That's all they needed to do to build it. Despite my distaste for the prior segment, this worked fine. The stipulation is funny. So now we have Dominic against Danhausen, human monies on a pole match. And Vintage, like, I understand it's a big show and Danhausen is a top 2, I believe, maybe top 3 merch seller in the entire company. It's Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Danhausen. And then like everyone else, including Cody Rhodes, is a step below them right now. But Dominic is the AAA Mega Champion. He is still someone they're building around. I know Sami Zayn lost to the Jackass guys in Johnny Knoxville. I know other legitimate stars like, what's his name? Big Show lost to Floyd Mayweather, right? Like, but Floyd Mayweather was like a legitimate boxer, one of the greatest of all time. I don't know what is going to happen here. What I do know is like Danhausen really needs to lose this. I don't know that he's going to. I want to believe WWE is smart enough to give Mysterio a notable win, notable because of the importance of the segment because Danhausen is so popular. I got to believe they're going to give him the win, get him some legitimate heel heat, and then move forward with him as a legitimate Money in the Bank contender. If he loses this, I mean, like, it's not the end of the world because Danhausen is so popular and Dom is so young, but it just really shouldn't be the booking. I'm going to believe they're smarter than to have him lose. I have Dominic beating Danhausen and retrieving the human monies.
Do you think Ryan Garcia plays a role in the win?
I do not. I think it was a one and done, and I hope it was a one and done.
I'm going to go Danhausen just because I think they're just all in on Danhausen right now. I don't want him to win. I want Dom to win. And not that Danhausen can't lose or anything like that, but, you know, I think it's a funny bit. The Danhausen getting to keep the money, even though he shouldn't, even though he legitimately just kind of stole the money. Him winning a human to monies on a pole match, like, makes sense. And the minis are there and they joke and have a good time and we all hate it. And that's that. Now, maybe they see the reaction to Monday and pivot, but for now, I'm going to go Danhausen.
United States Championship, Trick Williams will be defending against Baron Corbin. This got added to the card after SmackDown went off the air. They actually posted this on social media, though, so at least they did that. Corbin attacked Williams following the four-way main event, leading Trick to make the challenge and cut a promo. He said bitch here, and like I said earlier, not for nothing, men on SmackDown said bitch 3 times on Friday, but Charlotte stopped herself from saying it in a backstage promo. Could not make any sense of it. Corbin getting this title match when Carmelo Hayes got screwed by his interference and has not been listed as injured does not make a shred of sense. I hope it gets expanded to a triple threat on the Go Home SmackDown. We thought it was going to get expanded to a triple threat for WrestleMania with Sammy and Trick, and that never happened, so I'm not putting any stock in my hopes. But I just cannot understand for the life of me why Hayes' legs keep getting cut out from under him. He is over. Fans have bought into him, even with this shitty booking. WWE went to lengths to legitimize him with the U.S. title run. He has not, as I said earlier, been on any PLE since the 2025 Royal Rumble. That is pure insanity, including missing the Royal Rumble match this year. That's just my take on Melo. I wanted to make sure I said it. Trick retains over Corbin. Maybe Melo gets involved and that leads to a triple threat. I could see some shenanigans here.
There's got to be some shenanigans, but I'm going to think Carmelo interferes. Trick wins. We do Carmelo versus Corbin, and maybe we get to Carmelo Trick at some point from there. I think the U.S. title stuff has been weird all year because Trick Williams got over a lot more than they thought he would, maybe, and then like in a babyface way. And so, like, rearranging the U.S. title picture, where does Carmelo Hayes fit when people love Trick Williams? And I think that's probably part of the stop and start of it all. Corbin comes in. He's a heel. You throw Carmelo at him. But I think Trick retains here. Corbin coming back and winning the U.S. title just makes no sense.
Oh, he hasn't even won a match. He came back, attacked twice, and now he gets a championship match on SummerSlam. I mean, it's just crazy to me. This whole thing fell apart as soon as Sami Zayn won the title when he shouldn't have, which was the second time that happened with, Intercontinental Championship previously, stepping in for Chad Gable. But it's fallen apart since then before WrestleMania. Maybe after this, it finally gets back on track, but I need Melo back in the picture in a real way. Ilya Dragunov, where the hell has he been? I could go on. Intercontinental Championship, speaking of him, Penta defending against Chad Gable. On Raw, Gable received the video package I requested last week, going all the way back to his feud with Gunther over the IC title, through turning heel with Academy, donning the mask, losing it in AAA, and making amends. Gable said moving forward has set him free. He no longer feels like he needs the validation of the title. He will not be the guy who lost himself chasing it. He will be the guy who found himself and wants to make his home state proud by winning in Minnesota. Penta later got a response fire promo saying he's glad Gable made his amends, but forgiveness does not erase what he did in the past, and he doesn't have enough to beat him and take his title. Penta said he's not fighting for revenge, but for his legacy and everyone who believes in him. This is exactly what it needed to be on Gable's end. I'd have gone a bit deeper and spent another minute on the package, considering, I will remind everyone, Raw is not time limited. And for a major go-home show, using 3 hours to ensure we get complete builds for all these matches should be an absolute no-brainer. But Gable's side of this was far more important than Penta. I didn't mind the champion got about half the time. Ultimately, I would have preferred a backstage or an in-ring segment in addition to this. Maybe a sit-down interview with Michael Cole. Fingers crossed we get that on the Countdown show. But it's tough to argue when they did pretty much exactly what I asked them to do last week.
Yeah, like it was good. It was solid. Could have been a bit more, like you said, but I'm glad they went all the way back to Gable wanting the IC title from Gunther. That's like 2.5 years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So they did go back pretty far. I liked it. Did a good job setting it up. Penta was fine. It set up. Gable had a good line too. He said something like, "People say I need that title when they don't know why." And that Gable has his why. And so it's like, I need the title basically just to validate everything else about me rather than just, I need the title. I thought that was a good line. I'm looking forward to this going in. I really think it would have been better if Gable was not fighting a luchador who's a babyface. Like, he should have dropped this title at some point to like Ethan Page. And Gable gets the big victory over a heel. Maybe Penta helps him. Lucha save after all that stuff. It's just the thing that's missing putting it over the top is that people love Penta. They feel a little mixed about the idea that Penta would drop the title. And that's booking.
I feel like it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. You put the title on Ethan Page. We're happy. It's cool that Ethan as a heel is the champion and he's getting, a valuable push, right? But as much as I love Ethan Page and I think he's doing a great job, Penta's a better wrestler, period. Bell to bell, better wrestler. We've seen him have matches with Gable. They've torn the house down. You're going to get a better match here. If you did
you know who it should have been? It should have been Rusev. That's who it should have been.
If you did a
what we saw from Rusev and Gable last week, like, he's a bigger heel who would have put together a better match, I think, with Gable. Let him do the suplex, make Gable look great. That would be the guy for Gable to beat.
He'd put together a better match than Page. He still wouldn't put together a better match than Penta. Like, Penta's a better wrestler than these guys. So,
but this is WWE where the quality of the match is not the most important.
Many times it's not, but that's kind of what I'm getting to. If you went with a 4-way or a 5-way, right? Then you're saying, okay, maybe Gable wins the title, but he pinned Page instead of the champion. It's not a real title win. So, like, no matter what they would have done for booking this, you could make an argument that doing something else would have been better, is what I'm trying to get at. Ultimately, counter to what you just said, I believe the concept of this match is we're going to put a damn good wrestling match on this card in front of a wrestling audience. And the guy from Minnesota, even though he's a babyface and even though the other guy's a babyface, he's going to win the crowd over with his work. He's going to finally, get to the mountaintop, win his first singles championship in WWE after like a decade on the main roster. And Penta will be gracious in defeat. And you'll get this great moment of everyone doing the skull clap with Gable celebrating the championship in his home stadium. And ultimately, I do believe it's going to work, even if I have previously shared some of the concerns that you have. I have Gable beating Penta, winning the Intercontinental title. I think it has a chance to steal the show on night 2, but it needs time. This has to be, I'm not even joking, a 17+ minute match. This isn't a 12, 14, 15 minute. You have to go to that length to let these guys truly show what they can do. If this is 9, 10, 11 minutes and Gable wins, we're going to be like, oh, that was nice, A-. And, it can't be that. It needs to be more. It needs to establish Gable, respect the title, and respect Penta as a really strong champion. And let them work to get the crowd excited and on Gable's side. Because if it is 10, 11, 12 minutes, they're going to be rooting for Penta. You need those other 6, 7, 8, 10 maybe minutes where the tide can turn and they can say, wow, we really respect what this guy is doing, even if we're originally rooting for the other one.
You need Gable kicking out of like 3 finisher and giving them like 20 minutes, because you say, look, WWE, we're the show that has the human monies on a pole match and Gable Penta on the same show.
Exactly.
We have something for everybody. And so this is the wrestlers wrestling match, to the point where it goes so long and Gable fights so hard that they are really rooting for him in celebration of the match, since they won't be rooting against Penta, because you don't naturally have that. Like, that's what Punk and Roman did at WrestleMania, where they were kind of both babyfaces. Now there was real animosity to get you into it, but Punk could lose and people still like just appreciate the show that was put on.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what needs to happen here with Gable winning.
What do you think the match time was of Reigns Punk? Just a guess.
I remember it being shorter than I thought. 17?
34.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Maybe it was longer.
It was 34. And then the two Jacob Fatu matches, and I'm pointing this out for a reason. They went 18 and 27 at Backlash and Cash in Italy. And if you remember, coming out of Backlash, we were like, man, they really used those 18 minutes. I mean, they just...
That's what it was.
They just went balls to the wall, Reigns and Fatu at Backlash. That is what this needs to be. I would love for it to be 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and for them to tear the house down. And I'd love it to be a 30-minute Iron Man match. If I had my druthers, that's what I would book. But you can put on a great, great match in 17, 18, 20 minutes. It's very difficult to do so if you get less time than that, because it's about working the crowd. It's about getting the baby face over against another baby face who they want to cheer for. You need to actively change the rooting interest of the crowd during the match. And if they don't have enough time to do it, it's going to fail. I'm holding out hope they will. This could steal the show on night 2. You and I both agree. Gable exits. Finally, Intercontinental Champion. Finn Balor will fight Sami Zayn, number 1 contendership for the WWE Championship. I gotta say, for a match without much direct build, this is incredibly intriguing. Balor trying to become number 1 contender at the same event 10 years later where he became inaugural Universal Champion. Zayn trying to get his deserved rematch after being screwed by Pierce and people he thought were his friends, both with significant motivations beyond simply wanting the title. Both tremendous wrestlers. A fresh challenger coming out of SummerSlam, even if there's not a PLE booked for September, which means this either happens on TV, Saturday night's main event, or possibly Worlds Collide in Chicago at the end of the month. So yeah, some of the least build, but among my most anticipated matches on the card, which also says something about the rest of the card. But really, I'm focused on WWE doing an extremely commendable job booking this pretty much in 1 week. And of course, we'll see what happens with the go home on Friday.
I agree, but as I think about it, and I don't know if this will play a role in my pick or not, I feel like it would be more interesting if the winner fought the winner of Seth Roman.
Of course.
Because
totally.
because we've seen Punk versus Balor and Punk versus Zayn this year. We've seen Cody versus Sammy recently. Finn, Cody, I guess not. That's like the only fresh matchup. But if this was like, if we thought winner faces Roman Reigns,
oh yeah,
I feel like that would ratchet it up even more. But yes, I'm glad they're doing a number 1 contender. And this might be the hardest match to pick on the whole card. And that's good.
By the way, Balor Reigns and Zayn Reigns, both of which happened previously, were excellent matches.
Other than the one finish.
Well, the finish sucked. Finish sucked, but that match was incredible.
It was.
It was awesome. Just the finish ruined it. But Sammy and Roman at Elimination Chamber. I mean, there were so many incredible meetings between that group of people. But no, this is going to be on the SmackDown side, and that is the one minor problem is Punk just had a 2-match series with Balor. It was great.
Yeah.
He just fought Zayn for the title. That was great. So no matter what, you're running a match that's already happened this year, in Balor's case twice, in Zayn's case once. I do not believe that you can put Sammy immediately back into a number 1 contendership, given the story that you're telling. If he gets that chance and he fights Punk again, or even Cody, and he loses, then he's basically done. Now, look, WrestleMania is 9 months away, so they don't need him to be a top contender for, during that entire 9-month span. But I don't think you want to put him in that match and then knock him down another peg. So I do have Balor emerging from this. I think there's a concerted reason that they had him win the matches they had him win on television. 3 big victories inside of a month. because he's the one who has the momentum going into this. And I don't think you want to stall that by having him built up and then lose to Sammy, who has already won a bunch of matches previously, Gunther and some other ones, Chad Gable, etc., that he shouldn't have won in the past. So I have Finn remaining win Balor and walking out as the new number one contender for the WWE Championship.
I could see like Sammy wins, then say he wrestles Punk at Money in the Bank. Maybe, I guess that's not till October.
It would be either Worlds Collide or Sunday night's main event in Atlanta.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the math. Like if Sammy wins the number one contendership, then beats Punk at a Money in the Bank, but also gets immediately cashed in on, so he's won it twice and kind of been screwed out of it twice. Like, but I guess the dates don't really line up with that. Mm-hmm. If Sammy's going to lose here, this has to finally actually start the downward cycle that we thought they would do. That's if you're planning to build Sammy back up for Mania next year, which we don't know that they are. It's very possible he got that title this year in Saudi because he's not getting it next year. Like, it remains very possible. Frankly, it probably makes the most sense of anything. I want Finn to win because I think the Finn winning the title back for the first time in forever would be really interesting and they could do stuff. I think what's going to happen is Sammy wins and he gets his rematch against Punk and then just loses on a SmackDown. I think that's what I'm going with. It fits story-wise. It's not what I'm rooting for, but my pick is Sammy.
Fair enough. Interim Women's WWE Championship. Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, Chelsea Green, Charlotte Flair, and one entrant to be determined, either Julia or Lash Legend, in a ladder match. Coming out of SmackDown, this may surprise you. I was convinced Chelsea was going to win this match. That would allow them to break off Flair and Cargill into their singles feud that was planned. Stratton has Monroe waiting for her. But as much as we may want Green to win, and as fun as that would be for SummerSlam, with Rhea Ripley out indefinitely, the interim title, it needs to be defended. That's the entire point of doing an interim championship. Chelsea winning Money in the Bank and then cashing in and escaping with a defense or two, that gives her a couple big moments as opposed to one. And then she can drop it. This would be too similar to what they did with Sammy, as I cannot imagine Chelsea holding it for a few months and building to a feud with Rhea. So unfortunately, I see Charlotte winning the title, feuding with Jade over it, and then ultimately dropping it to Rhea in a big match whenever Ripley returns. While that would have been a non-starter last year, Flair is so well liked now that her getting a title win in a stadium that's actually going to cheer for her, standing atop a ladder, I hate to say it's a moment that she deserves, but you know what? She's taken a seat back. She's put over other women. People are really rooting for her for the first time, maybe in her entire main roster career. I kind of feel like Charlotte deserves this. I have Flair walking out as the interim WWE Women's Champion.
I think that's the most likely thing. And I could see it where Jade is close to winning and Alexa Bliss comes in to knock her off. And then Charlotte gets the win. That creates even more cheers.
Absolutely.
For Charlotte. It's probably the most likely thing. My question is just, do they know when they think Rhea could be back?
I don't believe
because
so. I mean,
if they think it's soon, I think that makes it less likely Charlotte.
Oh yeah,
or Jade, I guess.
No, if it's like inside 6 to 8 weeks, then you probably go Chelsea, is what I would say.
Yes, I think that as well. Like if it's going to be, give it a month or something like that.
Right.
You do Chelsea. You give her the moment here. Maybe she even drops it before facing Rhea if you think people are going to cheer Chelsea against Rhea. But if you think Rhea's going to still be out for a bit, then you're doing it on Charlotte. So with that caveat, I'm going to go Charlotte as well. But we both think it's very, very possible Chelsea wins here.
Yeah, I mean,
is there any chance for anybody else?
Well, 1 second. Ripley should have been cleared for SummerSlam if it went as expected with her injury. Let me put it that way.
Right.
Because she's still out, that generally means it's an indefinite injury and you just don't know when it's going to heal. You don't know when it's going to feel right. And therefore, you're just kind of laying in wait. And it's for that reason that I'm picking Charlotte over Chelsea. If they knew, hey, she's already feeling better, we can bring her back in 4 weeks and do this match at this specific date, then I believe you go Chelsea. I said 6 to 8 earlier. That's actually too long. It would need to be like 4 to 6. But if it's indefinite and they just don't know, then yeah, you just delay it and you put it on someone who can legitimately defend it and build themselves up as champion. You're right. We normally, when it comes to a match like this, play process of elimination. We did not do that here. So Chelsea, you and I both agree, is a legitimate possibility. Charlotte is a legitimate possibility.
I don't think Tiffany. She's already the U.S. champ. I
said Chelsea, not Tiffany. I said Chelsea, not Tiffany. But I do agree with what you just said. Tiffany, not a legitimate possibility. Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And then Jade, could win, but she was just champion. And if they go right back to her having the title, that means you're going back to Ripley and Cargill and you're having Rhea beat her again. And that doesn't make any sense. Julia, which was a good match at WrestleMania. It was, but you don't want to run it a third time. She's already beat her twice.
Yep.
You can't do that again. Julia, if she does win that other qualifier, I know that she's not incredibly over and that she's been booked terribly. You could surprise people and give her the championship. And let her run really good matches with the women on that brand until Ripley is available, and then run a really good match between Julia and Ripley. I just don't see them elevating her when all she has done really is beat Kiana James. So that's why for me it's Charlotte or Chelsea, and I think Charlotte's the more likely of the two.
I think it's Charlotte, Jade, or Chelsea. No Tiffany, no Julia. A 1-2% chance for Lash. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Man. But we also need to keep the possibility that Jade could win it and then beat Rhea. It's not like we're assuming Rhea's going to come back and just beat whoever wins to get the championship. I'm not. It's maybe she can do one match, but is not healthy enough that they would want to keep a title on her. And you get through one match and then she needs surgery or something. I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing that Rhea's going to win when she comes back.
Fair enough. Let's move to the night 2 main event, what some would say is the overall main event of WWE SummerSlam. The World Heavyweight Championship on the line, Roman Reigns defending against Seth Rollins. Reigns aura formed in the main event of Raw, eventually getting interrupted before he could demand acknowledgement, which Rollins stole upon getting in his face. Roman called him an asshole. Seth admitted as much, saying he's somehow always the bad guy when they face off. He talked about grinding and hustling, not getting his career served up on a silver platter, even if Reigns has lived up to being the guy, just like WWE always wanted. Rollins said Reigns can brag about plenty except being a better professional wrestler because Seth owns him physically and mentally, and Roman hasn't changed enough to alter the outcome. He asked if Reigns would get disqualified like he did in their last match, great callback, or cheat using the bloodline because if he did neither, he wouldn't stand a chance. Roman said he's the only real superstar and true champion in WWE. He needs his family to see him win, and the entire industry needs him to win. Seth recalled sending the Anawahi family home in tears at WrestleMania 31, hoping they are in attendance again Sunday so he can make them cry again. Rollins said he'd prove to Reigns' kids their daddy is a fraud and a loser who will always be his bitch. Roman swung and stomped a mudhole, chasing with a Superman punch and a spear. Seth crawled onto the ropes, so Roman got reminded of the Shield breakup. Grabbed a steel chair. When he ran back inside, Rollins wisely stomped him right into the chair, and he was holding the same arm he injured at Crown Jewel to end this segment, but I didn't see anything that impacted it, so I believe he was just selling the prior attack. This was not overly dissimilar from the Punk Rhodes go home. It was better apples to apples, but like I said before, this played as a segment you would normally get 4 weeks out from WrestleMania. In fact, I'm pretty sure they repeated most of what they had said already in the build. The only new content being stuff about making Reigns' family cry and his kids embarrassed of him. And to be fair, that part was strong. The finish with Roman being distracted by his blind hatred and memory, that was a nice touch too. Further, I'm glad there was not a pull-apart brawl going home in any of these feuds. That's something that WWE did seemingly for every single feud going into WrestleMania, so they showed some restraint here. But if there was a singular situation to do it, it would have been this situation. So again, like Punk and Rhodes, was this executed well? Sure. Was it intense enough? Did it further sell me on the match? No, it did not. And considering how much material they had to use but did not use, it came across as if it's not going to be their last meeting, which I believe we all assumed it would be once it was booked. If this does wind up as their last one-on-one, the build largely was a disappointment. If it's not, and there's more to come, whether it's this year or in future years, then perhaps I understand why they didn't go all out.
It has to be the last one. They did the whole build of the whole backstory. There's nothing left for these guys to say, which is why this go home segment kind of sucked, basically. I mean, like the fighting at the end was fine, but it was weird. Like Seth says, some of us weren't born on third base, and then immediately talks about how great Roman is and how he's not taking anything away from him. Like, what are you talking? You just did. It completely flip-flop whatever you're saying there. It doesn't make any sense. And then, like, I just didn't buy any of these things these guys said to each other. There was no intensity, like you said. It felt like these guys were playing like wrestling promo.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't buy anything they said. You compare this to Punk Roman stuff and Punk Seth stuff and how good that was, because there is some real life animosity there. And Punk is always able to pull the best out of who he's working with. I don't think these guys have, weirdly enough, been able to pull the best out of each other anywhere close. And Seth being like, I'm going to make your family cry just like I did 11 years ago. And then Roman doing the like face twitch thing is it's like the only thing he can ever do when he's mad.
Right.
I was just like, I thought the finish was creative, like bringing the chair, the stomp and all that stuff. Like I liked that. But the promo stuff, it was best basically the first or second time they talked, when Seth was talking about like how I've never been able to be number one and all that stuff. I bought that from him and
totally.
Everything he's been through in his career. And this was also supposed to be a WrestleMania main event. This would have been, as we saw in Unreal, the first time Seth got to main event a WrestleMania night one-on-one. Yeah. And he didn't get that. And so at the beginning of this feud, when he talked about how he hasn't been able to kind of really get those highs and moments like Roman did, you bought that. Mm-hmm. By this point, though, they're just doing the wrestling story, not the real story. Now it's just like, I don't care.
You alluded to something in your breakdown there that is part of the crux of this issue. It's that the inability to position or unwillingness to commit to Reigns and the Bloodline as actual heels has severely impacted this SummerSlam build. Both this match and the Trios match have completely undefined sides because fans still want to cheer for Roman and Jacob and to a lesser extent Jay, despite them clearly operating in heel roles right now. It comes across as if WWE did not want to go full heel with them because they're over and they're moving merchandise. Yet they're going against opponents who are firmly on the babyface side. LA Knight, Royce Keys, Solo Sikoa, and Seth Rollins are babyfaces. So they're not getting the appropriate juice working against them because the heels are not drawing jeers. And you saw that play out in this segment. They wanted to cheer for Seth, but then he starts talking shit to Roman, and they're like, well, we don't like that because we want to cheer for Roman. You have to have defined roles, even if it's a tweener face and a tweener heel. These guys are both just in the middle because even though Rollins is supposed to be a face, they want to cheer for Reigns and they're not buying him completely as a face.
Four, at least four, if not five of these matches on this card on the two nights are, you could argue, are face versus face. Oba versus Brock, Punk versus Cody, Penta versus Gable, Roman versus Seth.
Yeah.
You could make an argument about the 6-man tag with the Bloodline and LA Knight, but less so.
Less so, but
the
similar.
Card.
Yeah, but less so, but
that's
similar.
A third of the card.
Yeah. You're 1,000% right. Look, we've gone on about this. We've talked about it ad nauseum on multiple editions of the podcast. Let's just get to the prediction here for Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, possibly the final time they ever fight. Now, Roman has beaten Seth before. So when they mention that Reigns has not beaten Rollins, what they mean is in a match that matters, something with a championship on the line or some stakes. And this is most certainly that. I would absolutely love it if Rollins beat Reigns. And if I was booking it, I probably would do that. I also would not make it their last match ever at a SummerSlam. And I would do it because Seth never lost the World Heavyweight Championship, A. And B, he's a far more interesting champion than Roman, who, despite saying he would be around all summer, and he definitely was around a lot more than he would have been in prior years, he still missed multiple weeks of TV. And when he's not there, you feel that vacancy. So I think WWE would be better and Raw would be better with Rollins as champion. But there is the hole in Reigns' resume. And while that it has existed for other major stars in the past, like Shawn Michaels has some, and The Undertaker with Brock Lesnar and some other people, with Reigns and the way he's booked and the fact that, at least try one at Hollywood didn't exactly work out for him, I don't necessarily see him going anywhere anytime soon. And you cannot have him have another just big gaping hole in his record against Rollins. He's the champion. He's been doing well. He's been putting on great matches since he won the title. Give him credit for that. And it just seems like it's the time for Rollins to take the L. So while it's against what I would want, I believe it's what WWE will book, and that is Reigns retaining the World Heavyweight Championship in the main event of SummerSlam with both world titles and 3 of the top 4 titles, the other being Liv over Io, all remaining with their champions coming out of the show, which only makes the event so exciting.
I'm much like Punk Roman, where like Punk winning would have been, I guess, cooler.
Mm-hmm.
That was another one of those get it on the resume matches. Roman gets the defining win over Punk, the guy who kneecapped his career at the beginning for what he said on the podcast, and you close that hole there. And like when Seth won at Mania last year over Punk and Roman, when Heyman turned, he pinned Roman, I believe, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So Roman's going to get it here and get the win. I keep thinking back to WrestleMania, though, which was Roman saying, like, I'm going to be around all summer. Well, we're kind of at the end of summer. And I think at the time of WrestleMania, we thought, all right, Roman will hold the belt till SummerSlam, drop it then, and then just disappear again. That's what happens sometimes. And Obafemi said at the time, like, I'm coming for you, Roman Reigns. So, like, Oba feels like something to build to. Oba winning his first title over Roman is a thing that would make a lot of sense, but you got to imagine they don't want to do that until a WrestleMania. I don't know if it's totally clear if Oba still has that number 1 contender from King of the Ring or not, or if he fully relinquished it, or if it's just on pause. I guess we'll see. But also, like, Saudi Arabia WrestleMania, is that a Rock versus Roman situation? If the Rock's ever going to do that, I don't know. Ultimately, if Roman is going to keep being around, which I hope he is, then he wins it and keeps going. If he's going to be gone for some reason, then I think you change it. But most likely, Roman retains.
Just so everyone has a refresher, because WWE did a piss poor job of building this on TV in terms of video packages. They aired those really shitty short ones. In terms of matches that truly matter historically, Rollins beat Reigns for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at Money in the Bank 2016. Okay, that's the first win for Rollins, so 1-0. They fought to a double countout in a heavyweight championship number 1 contendership on Raw. And then at Royal Rumble 2022, Rollins beat Reigns by disqualification when Roman had him in the guillotine. And this was in the middle of his long run. And he refused to let go, forcing the DQ. That way Rollins was protected, but Reigns, of course, didn't win clean and certainly was able to retain the title and keep his long reign going. That is their like major match history. It's not like they fought in 3 WrestleMania main events. In fact, the only time they fought at WrestleMania was when Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase, interfered in the Brock Lesnar main event, and then won the title. And of course, the triple threat last year,
which was not a title match.
My point is they've never fought 1-1 at WrestleMania. You'd think the way people talk about their feud and how many times they fought and how long it's been, you would have thought it's like Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, who fought at WrestleManias and SummerSlams, and it was like endless. We couldn't stop getting Reigns and Lesnar matches. These guys actually don't have a long history in the ring. So if you put Reigns over here and you run this back 2 years from now at WrestleMania, and I really hope that these are not the guys that are still doing this by that time at WrestleMania, but if that's the case and you run it back one more time and you have Rollins win, okay. But no matter what, this needs to be Reigns winning the championship based on what WWE wants for him, his character, and his legacy. Okay, Vintage, that concludes our ultimate preview for both nights of WWE SummerSlam. The show is going long, but What is left is us providing pre-show expectation grades. We're going to offer 3 of them for night 1, night 2, and then SummerSlam combined as a 2-night event. As always, here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, whenever we grade events, you get the opportunity to go first. So let's kick it off with night 1 Vintage. What is your expectation grade for Saturday at SummerSlam?
A-, high A-. It's what, a 92?
92 is the highest.
A-.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. With the real possibility of it getting into an A. We'll see how the 6-woman tag goes. That's probably the only real weak point of the card.
Mm-hmm.
But we both picked 2 champions retaining. It might be a predictable type of night. That's why I don't have it at an A right now, but it certainly has the possibility to get there. So A-.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm at a 93A, so the lowest A, just 1 point above you. The card is insanely strong, and if they nail it on Hell in a Cell and the Cody Punk main event, that on its own is a rising tide that will probably lift most of the other boats. To your point, the only real weakness is the women's trios match. Even the men's trios match, which I would normally say is weak, it's been built incredibly well, and there's a lot of talented guys in it. So I'm really looking forward to night 1, certainly more than night 2. And you and I both are optimistic that will deliver high A-, low A range at a minimum. Same question, perhaps different answer, Vintage. Sunday at SummerSlam, what is your expectation grade?
A high B? Is that an 86 or an 87?
An 86 would be the highest B.
I'll go with the high B with, again, a ceiling for it to get higher. I think the human money's on a pole match. Trick versus Baron Corbin, I think will be kind of I don't think the main event, Roman Seth, will be as good as Punk Rhodes the night before. May even be the 3rd best match on the card if Sammy and Finn and Penta Chad Gable deliver.
Yeah,
but there is a title change, a number one contender, and an interim championship. So there is stuff on the line here. Actually, I'm going to make it 87 B+ for that reason. That because there's a lot of real things on the line here, and we're predicting at least 1 title change and some other stuff. There's more on the line. I'll go 87 low B+.
Yeah, you're very much moved by stuff happening, and I don't disagree with that concept. But yeah, I was a little surprised you were so low to start. But no, 87 B+ is legit. I am higher than you on this. I'm at 90 A-. I completely agree that it's a weaker card. Similarly, that more stuff could potentially happen. I think when it comes to these major shows, and I know WrestleMania left a real sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, but outside of that event, historically, under this regime, WWE has largely over-delivered on its premium live events. And my hope going in is that they've learned some lessons from what happened at WrestleMania, because this is the next most similar show to that they will be putting on since it ended. They're not doing other stadium shows or, major 2-night events in the United States between WrestleMania and this. And, we've had praise and criticism for some of these other PLEs that have transpired. But this one, I'm going to go in optimistic because, once again, even though the build hasn't been great, the card is extremely strong. So that's why I'm at a 90 A-. So I'm 93A, 90 A-, just recapping for everyone. You're at, I want to say 92 A- and 87 B+ as your respective grades. What is your overall expectation grade for SummerSlam?
A-, 91. It's not a perfectly even split in the difference. I think the highs of here can be really high. I think the lows, there's not too many things that could be too many lows. I'll go 91 A-.
The lows would occur by the potential highs not delivering. That's the way I look at it. Like if Penta and Gable is too short, or if Oba and Brock doesn't get enough time, or
they go 5 minutes again.
Yeah, or for some reason Lesnar wins, right? Like it's the booking and the positioning that has a chance to make the show bad, not the card. If you just put these matches on and there were no commercials and everyone was left to their own devices, I wouldn't have much concern about them putting on a great show. But it's the booking, the positioning, the scheduling with everything that's happened with WrestleMania. Can they move beyond that and, recognize some of their mistakes? I'm not expecting everything to change. There's going to be ads. There's going to be a lot of breaks. People are going to be annoyed by that. But if you get actual match time and they're allowed to wrestle and the booking is correct, you can overcome a lot of those issues. So similarly, mine does not line up with an average of my grades, but I'm actually lower than you, ironically. I'm at a 90 A- because as high as I am anticipating night one, I really feel like night two could fall off in a significant way. And I noted earlier, I'm being optimistic on night two. So I'm going to kind of trim the expectation a little bit by saying, hey, night one may hit that mark, but night two also may fall below it. So I'm going to go 90 A-. We're both at an A- expectation. That is pretty much where you should be going into a show like this. And honestly, we may even be giving WWE a little bit too much credit because of how much WrestleMania disappointed and how poor the build has been for this. But thinking back to Paul Levesque's first SummerSlam, leading creative, the debut of Damage Control, some other surprises on that show, what he did subsequently at other SummerSlams, there's a possibility they use this show as sort of a reset because so many plans had changed, going into WrestleMania. So many people had been injured. It's possible we don't just get Vicaire returning. What if Drew McIntyre's done taping? What if other people return to the show? What if Carmelo Hayes gets involved, even though he's not out of action, in the Trick Williams, Baron Corbin thing, and something really exciting happens there? So I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a huge reset across both brands, but they might be able to kick off some new directions, bring some people back, and just enhance the show in ways that we can't predict solely looking at 12 matches on a card. And
any other possibilities? Do you think is it possible Roman wins and The Rock comes out at the end to stare him down?
No.
And that's it. Is it possible Roman wins and Obafemi comes out and stares him down?
Possible,
we,
sure.
We signal that something's gonna happen. There's no way we're not ending at least one of the two nights. We're not just ending with Punk and Cody and someone wins and that's it. They're gonna do something because they know the vibes are not great. They want to build up for night two, try to get some extra walk-up types of tickets. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. Something is going to happen at the end of at least one of those nights. Kevin Owens, maybe. I don't know. Something will happen.
Was it last year at SummerSlam where both nights ended with a big moment? I think
yes.
Night one ended with Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank to win the title after CM Punk beat Gunther and then Rollins stole it from him. And night two ended with Brock Lesnar returning to confront Cody Rhodes after he beat John Cena. And we were we were more pissed about that because Cody over Cena on its own is all we needed.
Yes, and I was in Italy and missed it and listened to your recap of the show while I was on a boat to Capri Island. I specifically remember this. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think last year was the first two-night SummerSlam.
It was.
So they were just big stuff to close the night. I don't know what. Something's going to happen at least on one of these nights. Maybe both.
Yeah, it's interesting because WrestleMania is WrestleMania, but SummerSlam seems to be where Levesque actually tries to accomplish something that gets people talking through the end of the year. And maybe that is indeed what happens here. All right, Vintage, let's wrap up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. First, with a reminder that you can find us on social media at Getting Overcast. There, whether it's on Twitter or Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. On YouTube, you can listen to the program. You can watch full-length video interviews. You hit the link in our profile. You can subscribe to Getting Over. You can also join our free Slack channel. Conversation has been hot and heavy surrounding WWE SummerSlam. Also, please remember,
it's all about Defy.
Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. We will be back on Thursday talking AAA, NXT, AEW, and possibly TNA if we have the time. And then, of course, Saturday and Sunday, we will have WWE SummerSlam instant analysis for night 1 and night 2 as soon as those shows go off the air. Make sure if you are listening for the first time that you subscribe. You do not want to miss those shows. On behalf of Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King Adam Silverstein signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.